Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello, party squirrels of the world, party people. What's up? What's up? So, welcome on in to our next episode, our next installment of the series. Glad to have you guys here, whether you're watching us live or on replay crew. Shout out to everybody. And got another good one in store. For anyone who is watching and maybe missed the first episode or just going forward, I realized what I should be doing is what I did during Murdoch, and I forgot to do during the Ezra coverage, which is for each episode, starting out with like a little a recap of what happened last time on the previous episode. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do for each episode, I'll have like a little short, like a recap with some highlights of the previous episode. And I'm also going to just post those as a separate video of whatever, 5 minutes or something. Just like as a separate video in the playlist. So for each episode, there will be a live stream, and then there will be like the quick little recap or highlights, if you will, of that from that episode. So for anyone who wants to just catch up or just catch up on some of the funny moments or rewatch them or whatever, or important moments, whatever, I'll have those. I'm going to do that going forward and include those in the playlist. So again, each episode will have a live episode and then like a little video with like highlights of that episode or like a recap type thing. So that's the plan. And I will go ahead and we'll just talk about some of the things we're looking at here. Obviously, we got the ubiquitous Universal Studios. So that's the Anthony home. Palm tree front and center, classic Florida. There's the Buffalo Wild Wings. So these are all these places that you're going to be seeing here. These are the actual locations that, we are hearing about in the trial. That's the, Sawgrass Apartments, which is where Tony Lazzaro lived, I believe. And there's the IKEA where she's seen on like surveillance cameras. Casey, I mean. So of course that's the courtroom, and the courtroom is really cool because it's huge and it's like 2 levels. It's got like a balcony, kind of like an auditorium for like a orchestra concert. So you can see that up there, and there's the jury box on the right. That's the courthouse, believe it or not, right there in the middle. Crazy, right? State of the art, very tall. Completely different than the courthouse in Guilford County, which looks like a prison. Look at that. Beautiful, right? Look at all the natural light. Incredible. And then, of course, we've got our map. And the other thing that's interesting, too, so we're in Orange County for this trial. And, of course, it's 2011. But, right now in Orange County, things are happening, right? We got Sarah Boone in Orange County. We've got the Madeline Soto case out of Orange County, and I'm sure there's others as well, but those are just the 2 that come to mind. But I just highlighted this because of how funny that you can see Greensboro on the map. And in this one, you can actually see there's Clearwater on the left. So that's where Laura, Peter Tragos lives. Shout out to him. And for anyone who missed this on the last episode, we did talk a little bit about the jury because it's an interesting situation here. So the jury for this trial has been shuttled in from Pinellas County, which is Clearwater, again, where Laura, lives. They've been brought in from Pinellas County and sequestered for the entire trial. So they're being put up in like a hotel for the entire 6 weeks. And I actually don't know how long they deliberate. I haven't looked, I'm not trying to look ahead. But the trial is 6 weeks from what I understand. And they're sequestered the entire time out of town, away from their family. So talk about the sacrifice, right? Because we know all the jurors are making huge sacrifices, but it's an even bigger sacrifice to imagine being sequestered for the entire trial away from your families as well, right? Like it's bad enough to go home and not be able to talk about your day, but it's, a whole other thing. And so they're with all a bunch of strangers, right? And they can't really do anything or go anywhere. It's kind of insane. What a sacrifice. So, okay, the first thing I wanted to play is I've called this just in my own mind. I called this Middle Earth lawyering. I don't know why, but this is just a short little clip from the last episode with some exchanges here with George Anthony on the stand, where he's on cross-examination, and there's a bunch of objections, and I don't know why, but for some reason it feels really epic to me, of like the asking the same question in a different way and trying to get it in, and then approaching, and then the way it's like a battle. Like you've got Judge Belvin, and it's funny because I feel like I don't have a good sense yet for when he's going to overrule or sustain, because sometimes he kind of surprises you. Of course, we've only had one episode, but and I get the feeling that the attorneys also are surprised by his, in other words, it's there, they haven't quite figured out like a predictability yet there. And the timing of it is also really interesting, like the silence. So I don't know, to me, it feels really epic and suspenseful. So let's take a look here.
A month later, what Caylee was wearing?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
But you can't recall what your wife was wearing.
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Do you remember what your wife was wearing last Tuesday?
Objection. Relevance.
Sustained.
Now, Mr. Anthony, you reported gas cans missing on the 24th of June, right?
Objection. Scope of direct. Exceeds the scope of direct.
Is that a yes?
May I answer, Your Honor?
Yes, you can answer.
On June 24th of 2008, yes, I made a report to the Orange County Sheriff's Department about a break-in of a shed. Someone forcibly broke into a shed and removed gas cans.
And you did that because you were concerned that someone was burglarizing your shed.
Objection. Exceeds the scope of direct.
Sustained.
Mr. Anthony, you knew Casey would take gas from the gas cans, did you not?
Objection. Exceeds the scope of direct.
Sustained.
Mr. Anthony, when you got the gas cans back from your daughter, how did that occur?
Objection. Exceeds the scope of direct.
Sustained.
Mr. Anthony, did you ever notice any duct tape on that gas can?
Objection. Exceeds the scope of direct. Could be approached.
Yes.
Wow.
You may continue.
Now, Mr. Anthony, you stated that you never had any duct tape. Is that correct?
I didn't say anything about duct tape.
And you did not put the duct tape on that gas can, correct?
Objection. Scope.
Sustained.
Were you in possession of that duct tape at the public supermarket, the command center, while you were passing out flyers of your missing granddaughter?
Objection. Scope.
Sustained.
Judge, may we approach?
No.
Judge Belvin. I think that's the end of the clip. So, but there's a lot of things that stand out. First of all, one thing that's really interesting here is there's a lot of objections, especially on cross, right? Well, I guess in this case, it's on cross because we're in the state's case in chief. So where there's objections to exceeds the scope of direct. And that is really unusual because typically, shout out to Candace, happy to see you, my friend. Typically, there's a wider, like, we know this from criminal trials, right? I almost typed Candrass. Oh my God. I can't type. Why can't I type? Okay. So normally they're given a wide latitude, right? On cross, like, just to reiterate the rules, right? So it's like on cross, you can go into kind of whatever, because it's sort of like, well, you're going to give, how much rope you give yourself, you could give yourself that much rope to hang yourself type of thing, right? Because on redirect, they can only redirect on what came up in cross. So it's a catch-22, right? It's like you can kind of go into whatever typically on cross, but whatever you go into, remember, then they can come back and redirect on it, right? So do you really want to go into that? And then on recross does have to be narrowly tailored. It has to be directly addressing what came up in redirect. And we actually even heard this come up in the Ezra trial, where at one point Mr. Nelson, and for anyone who doesn't remember his face, let's take a look at this real quick. Potentially the next serial killer. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Bloodshed.
Him. So there was a point where he was trying to kind of ask a question that he already knew the answer to, but it was so stupid, of like, oh, like on rebuttal, if there's a rebuttal witness, when we do recross, does it mean that we can just ask whatever? And he's like, nope, it's just like in regular case in chief, like it has to be directly addressing what's on redirect, but anyway, so it's interesting that there's a lot of these objections coming in from the state of exceeds the scope of direct. And I don't know what the deal is with that. Like, if that's just this judge's practice, that's the only thing I can imagine, because it's not like it's a rule that you can or can't do it, right? It's just like a common practice, right? For criminal trials, it's a common practice to be able to have a wider, now, of course, having said that, there's times where they're given that wider latitude, but every now and again, there might be an objection that comes in and the judge can sustain it. But in this case, he's really, really strict about that, of like, it's not coming in, right? Like you cannot, so that's really interesting. But the other thing that's so interesting to me is the stamina of Mr. Baez with all these objections, and he's not getting, what's the right word? It's to say that he's just not getting faced by it is such, I feel like is such an understatement. Like the number of ways, think about the mental stamina it would take to try to re-ask the same question or a similar question in like 20 different ways, right? That's really the art of this. That's the art of what his job, his task is here, is how many different ways can you try to ask the same question in hopes that an objection will get overruled, or there wouldn't be an objection. Although in this case, it's like literally every single question that he's saying, there's an objection. It's just, and then that's the other thing, is like, that's really unusual, right? And we know sometimes attorneys will do that just to try to disrupt the flow, because it is so disruptive. So imagine in this case where every single question there's an objection, right? So let's watch it again because it's short, and I think that it's so fascinating. Just to listen for the pauses and listen for the different creative ways he tries to get these questions in.
Did you remember 1 month later what Caylee was wearing?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
But you can't recall what your wife was wearing.
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Do you remember what your wife was wearing last Tuesday?
Objection. Relevance.
Sustained.
Now, Mr. Anthony, you reported gas cans missing on the 24th of June, right?
Objection. Scope of direct. Exceeds the scope of direct.
Is that a yes?
May I answer, Your Honor?
Yes, you can answer.
On June 24th of 2008, yes, I made a report to the Orange County Sheriff's Department about a break-in of a shed. Someone forcibly broke into a shed and removed gas cans.
And you did that because you were concerned that someone was burglarizing your shed.
Objection. Exceeds the scope of direct.
Sustained.
Mr. Anthony, you knew Casey would take gas from the gas cans, did you not?
Objection. Exceeds the scope of direct.
Incredible.
Sustained.
Mr. Anthony, when you got the gas cans back from your daughter, how did that occur?
Objection exceeds the scope of your evidence.
Stay.
Mr. Anthony, did you ever notice any duct tape on that gas can?
Objection exceeds the scope of your evidence. Could we approach?
Yes. You may continue.
Now, Mr. Anthony, you stated that you never had any duct tape. Is that correct?
I didn't say anything about duct tape.
And you did not put the duct tape on that gas can, correct?
Objection. Scope.
Sustain.
Were you in possession of that duct tape at the public supermarket for the command center while you were passing out flyers of your missing granddaughter?
Objection. Scope.
Sustain.
Judge, may we approach?
No.
Love the way he said no. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. So very good. So, okay, so let's go over the last couple little ones we haven't talked about yet on this slide here. Slideshow. Also, for anyone who missed it, we did have, so when was it? Yesterday, I guess we had, was that yesterday? The first episode of this series, but then also last night, I did a Coburger live stream. It's really short, but for anyone who missed it, we went over the latest documents. They're going to have their first hearing with the new judge in Ada County this coming Thursday, and it will be streamed from the court's YouTube channel as per usual. Shout out to Super Planner Girl. Happy you're here. Have you, since I don't know if you were here for the last episode, had you watched this trial, or have you watched this trial, gavel to gavel? So far, I'll say, we have yet to hear from anybody in the Squirrel crew who has. So glad we're all in the same boat, at least so far. Not that we have to be, but it's interesting because, again, it's like this ubiquitous trial, but, you know. So there's, again, that's the Lake Eola, I think it's called, Eola, down there in downtown Orlando. And there's another picture of it. It is a very round lake, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, cool. So Super Planner Girl says that she hasn't seen it. All she knows is like the documentaries that they put out. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's the general consensus, right? And because it is so rare for juries to acquit, and you know, that's why I wanted to watch it and see. So, and yeah, and I did see also the documentary. I don't know that I saw the whole thing, but I saw a lot of it, you know, the one that she did. And I'm trying to kind of put that out of my mind because, you know, because first of all, the biggest takeaway I had from that was that I think it was Peacock or whatever. They really went over the top with like the edits. Like they had a bunch of like terrible choppy edits, and then also the overly dramatic music. And so for me, that just ruins it. So it's hard to, you know, anything that she said or didn't say. I mean, it was lost on me because it was just distracting. Yeah. So, and the other thing too is so she was charged with first-degree murder, but she was also charged with some other options for the jury. So they also were given options of like manslaughter and child neglect. And then also perjury. So if they didn't go for murder, they could have gone with manslaughter, and they could have also gone, and we, you know, obviously we're a long ways away from jury instructions. We've only just had the first episode, but my guess is there's probably going to be lesser included within those, such as intentional and unintentional, to include something like accidental. Okay. And then there's also the perjury. And so the interesting thing is, again, you don't oftentimes see those in conjunction with a first degree death penalty case where they're giving them options that are like, well, maybe it's just an accident, right? Like, what? And it's a first degree murder death penalty case. Insane. So she was charged with like the perjury, which because she made so I say perjury. Technically, it was just false reports to law enforcement, but she had already served time. So it was, and actually, I guess just for the sake of it, they appealed like a couple of those counts after the fact, even though she wasn't going to have to go to jail, and they were successful. From what I've understood, I'm sure we'll learn all that, but yeah, she was not guilty on all the important stuff. Because the false reports to police were like lying about her job at Universal Studios and shit like that, right? But technically, it was a statement to law enforcement. So, and I love how Jose Baez points out in his opening statements. He points out that George Anthony also made false reports to the police, and he wasn't charged with perjury. Yes, thank you. I love that he pointed that out. That was awesome. It's like, really, jury, you shouldn't even find her guilty of this. But we're going to see some snippets of that too when we get to the little recap here in a second. Yeah, the music was definitely too much. But it's crazy how much we didn't know. Like, when I say we, I mean the general public, just from what we've heard, again, the general, like, it's like, wow, we didn't know anything, and it becomes really clear even just from the first episode. It's like, wow, like there's just so much. I'm super excited. Like, it's a great trial so far. I think did I already answer that? I think I did already answer that. Yeah, because they did find her guilty on the line to the false police reports or whatever. But again, those were not that big of a deal anyway. But she already had the time served, so she was in custody. So that was the thing. She had already served, I don't remember how long, like 2 years or something in custody by the time this went to trial. So because the death was in 2008 and the trial is 2011. So let me see here. I thought I had another clip of something. What was it? Let me look and see if I can find. I thought I had another little thing planned. I might have already built it into the next episode. Let me just make sure. Maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy. So yes, there's the Anthony house again. And basically my file is at 99%. I'm just waiting for it to finish. Usually I don't try to use my computer when it's finishing because I don't want to slow it down, but because it was so close, I thought it was going to be done already. So just sort of waiting here. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Guess we could get some music going. Ambiance. Yay! We haven't heard night driving in a while, have we? That's nice. Ah. I feel like they turned it down. Rasputin's party. Doom, 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 doom. Look at that courthouse, guys. Can you imagine? If you guys could see the Guilford County courthouse, it literally looks like a prison. Oh, wow. What color are you painting your bedroom? Super Planner Girls, for anyone who's listening and not watching, says that they're doing a bedroom makeover this weekend and they painted it. So what color are you going with? Cool. That's neato. Marshmallow. Ask how, ask now, ask Sherwin Williams. That's neato. So the other thing that's interesting too about Jose Baez is he's representing Shauna Gardner. And I've had a couple people request that I cover that, and I wasn't really thinking about doing that, but I'll tell you what, after seeing him in action so far, I'm changing my mind on that because he's phenomenal. And he's making it onto my top favorite attorney list. So, yeah, but that case is, from what I can tell already, I think the facts of that case are way worse. Like, again, we didn't really know anything. Those of us who never watched the trial, which is so far everybody, this trial, I mean, that the facts are terrible. Like, I don't know how they came at her with these charges. Like, the facts are terrible so far. Like, again, we're just getting into it, but really, they don't really have much of a case, it looks like. And so from what I can tell, again, it's hard to speculate, but from what we know, they've got some pretty solid evidence against Shauna Gardner and like people that have taken plea deals and whatnot. So, and will testify to what they know, but it'll be interesting to see if, how he does with that, right? Because the facts matter. Sometimes you get bad facts and sometimes you don't, whatever. But yeah. Oh, so have you watched him with any of her Shauna Gardner stuff? Because I haven't yet. I know about the case, but I haven't watched him. But he is phenomenal here. Absolutely. And we're going to see, as soon as my file is done, it's going to have a little recap from last episode, and you're going to get to see him in action. And you'll get to see him in action this episode too, obviously. But no, that absolutely makes sense. Yes, we were Planner Girl saying when it's a child victim, people want someone to blame, understandably. And I think law enforcement can get away with it more. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah. And I don't even know if their hearings have been, I don't even know where it's at in that whole process. Like, I mean, Florida, has all open, transparent process. So I would imagine the hearings are open, but I haven't seen anything about them. So when Sarah Boone goes to trial in like a couple weeks here, she's going to be at this very same courthouse that we're looking at. So keep that in mind, guys. Same with Stephen Stearns, unless he takes some sort of plea. I don't know that they'll offer him one. So this courthouse is just gorgeous, man. It's like a symphony orchestra hall. This courtroom is incredible. The acoustics must be phenomenal. And in fact, the attorneys actually joke about the acoustics in there sometimes because it's almost too echoey, I think, for them. But look at that. Look at the seating. Did you guys see the seating? It's like a movie theater. And compare that to the pews like in Murdoch. Actually, speaking of which, hold on. Well, actually, you guys have probably seen it. I was going to pull up the Nightbot and Elmo picture, and just because we can see the Murdoch pews, but you guys already know what that looks like. So, yeah. Yeah, so Shauna Gardner, I mean, basically what I can say about that is like, she is this another wife murdering husband situation out of Florida. She's out of Jacksonville. But like the story there is like he was like an ex Microsoft executive, and this is just off my top of my memory, but basically like she hired kind of like actually compare it to like the Adelson type thing, right? She hired people to do it essentially. So the people that were involved and complicit like already confessed and like are going to testify against her, just plea deals for it, which is part of the reason why it's like, well, there's the facts in that case are worse potentially than this case. Yeah, and she also comes from a family with a lot of money. Like they have this weird family company called Stampin' Up, and like it's kind of like multi-level marketing, if I understand it correctly. It's been a long time since I've heard much about the case, but when it first broke, I learned all the stuff about it, but that was a while ago. Yeah, same. Actually, I'm more curious about his take on Jen Soto. That's what I want to hear. Although I feel like I can probably predict that pretty well. Although, I mean, I don't know. I think I have a kind of an idea, but I would love to hear his take on that. Are you talking about Shanna Gardner? Yeah, I mean, but isn't this always the case though? I mean, here's the thing. Justice only works if justice works for everybody, right? And the thing is that you can't just get evidence thrown out for no reason, whether it's crucial or whether it's not crucial. If it's crucial evidence and it's able to get thrown out, it means law enforcement fucked up. And that's on them. That's not on the defense attorneys. That's on law enforcement for not doing their job. For example, they fucked up, they cross-contaminated something or whatever the case may be. They didn't read Miranda rights, and they did it if they interviewed these guys that confessed or whatever, and they didn't read them. The list is endless, and you guys already know. But essentially, things aren't just going to get thrown out for no reason. If it's able to get thrown out, it means it should get thrown out. And it means somebody fucked up. But the people who fucked up are not the defense attorneys. People who fucked up are the law enforcement. So that's the first thing I would say. And then the second thing is, of course the family's upset. The families are always going to be upset. But again, justice works both ways, right? You can't have justice. Well, I feel like I've talked about this so much, but like I've said before, like, what was I talking about this with? I guess with Karen Reed, right? Like, not that it's applicable with Shauna, they're very different situations, but just the example of like an injustice for one person doesn't mean justice for another person. But I understand the families, I get it, but it's just like, I would assume this to be the case, right? Because this is always the case. Trials are never going to take it is normal. Like criminal trials always take years, especially, for like a first degree murder case, right? That's normal, but I understand that families don't know that, and they feel like it's their trial that's taking so long, but that's just the system because the system is backed up. It's just the way it is. So, yeah, I mean, the thing is that, and again, I don't know what the case is. I'm just assuming, like, if evidence can become inadmissible, that's really, really what it comes down to, right? And so, yeah, I was thinking about this the other day too, of how like, it just comes down to, just the fact that the government has every advantage, right? And that's why they have the burden of proof. And so it's like, as a defense attorney, it's like your job is to do everything you can to make them prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And that means make it as difficult as possible. And even in doing so, typically, you're still not going to be successful. Karen Reed's a great example, right? You know, like that is mind boggling, as we all know. But, you know, you have to make them work for it, you know? And the reason for that is because it makes the system, like, one of the big factors is law enforcement, because these cases all hinge on law enforcement doing their job properly. There's no evidence if there's no correct law enforcement procedures happening. So, and so it's really a good thing for justice and for everybody, for everyone to do, you know, for defense attorneys doing their jobs well and putting that pressure on the state, is really a better thing for everybody, because it's a trickle down effect, if that makes sense. So yeah, no, that's definitely, and that was going to say is definitely less often that's the case, but that would be the other possibility, and that is definitely worse. Yeah, a misstep on the state prosecutor's office. God, you hate to hear that, right? That's terrifying, and that's the point, right? And that's why that's terrifying, and that should make everybody terrified, right? We've gone through a lot of this in terms of the history of this stuff, especially like the BK documents. And it's been really fascinating. But when you learn the history of why the laws are what they are, it really stems down to like this thing of like this history of like the government used to just be able to throw anybody in jail, right? And you know, they could pick a jury and try you for something, and then, you know, back in the day, and then if you didn't get they didn't get a conviction, they would just keep they would just keep going until they, you know, line up the next jury, and we'll go 100 times until we drain you of money, right? And that's why there became that double jeopardy. But because the government has those infinite resources, and no normal person can match that. And so anyway, to that end, it's just even more terrifying when it comes from like the state prosecutor's office, because they have to, if they're the ones that messed up, like that's terrifying. So yeah, yikes. Like Carrie Morrissey, when it came to Baldwin, that shit is terrifying. Hiding the evidence away in a separate fake, like another case file, and labeling it as a document, that is like the stuff of nightmares for me. It's just, to say it's not okay is such a gross understatement. So, oh, Runkle was saying they can still do that. They can still recharge you. Interesting. Huh. That seems crazy though. Huh. Wow. Yeah, just to drain the resources. That's crazy. Is there any way to, like, did he say there was some way that, how does that process stop? Did he go on to say how they end up stopping? Do they ever give up? Or is it just once you run out of money? Like, what's the next thing that happens with that? That's so insane. Okay, here's what we're going to do, guys. My file is still at 99%. This is my life. Welcome to my life. We're going to do this while we're waiting, because I've talked about this, and we're going to do this while we're waiting, if it'll work. Let me see. Are y'all ready for some absolute insanity? Okay, me find it. Okay, hang on. Okay, are you guys ready for the best thing that you'll ever see in your lifetimes, probably? This is insane. Okay, this is what we're going to watch just while I'm finished late reading. Actually, my video will probably be done before this finishes, but we'll see. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I've talked about this briefly. This is one of the best things I've ever seen in my lifetime. We're going to watch this video real quick here. That is amazing. You guys are going to love it. And it's a deposition. It's a deposition where the attorney that's being deposed is a witness. So he's being deposed as a witness, but he's also an attorney. And I doubt you guys have seen this, and it is amazing. It is just what you've been missing in your lives, more than likely. So let me share my screen. You guys are gonna love it. It's hilarious. Super good. Okay. Your volume up. Okay, ready? Woo! Let's go.
We are on the record at 9:16. Today is March 12, 2018. This is the video testimony of Robert Abrams, taken in the matter of Justin Markovitz versus Joseph Daniel et al., case number 17 CD 30522 in District Court for the City and County of Denver, Colorado. Today we're located at 110 16th Street, Suite 1400 in Denver. I am the videographer, Timothy Ellermeyer. The co-reporter is Divine Basinger. Will all attorneys please introduce themselves, beginning with the plaintiffs?
Thomas Werge on behalf of plaintiff Justin Moskowitz.
Attorney Robert Abrams, license 37950, appearing pro se.
Neil Sullenberger, attorney registration 48698.
So he's already making the first misstep. Did you guys hear that? Appearing pro se. Oh my God, I don't want to give it away, but there's some, and honestly, I'll tell you, I didn't even get to finish watching this whole video because I couldn't make my way through it because I was injured. I injured myself laughing. I couldn't even finish. I made it maybe halfway through when I watched this the first time because I was hurting from laughing so hard. So he's representing himself pro se, but he's here as a witness in this matter. And, but he's an attorney representing himself pro se. So the first red flag.
For the firm.
Will the co-reporter please swear in the deponent?
Sir, we ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I've never seen anything like this.
Law.
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Abrams. As you know, my name's Tom Werge. I'm counsel for plaintiff Justin Moskowitz in this lawsuit. And do you understand why you've been asked to give your deposition today?
No.
Are you aware that your firm, Abrams and Associates, is a defendant in a lawsuit that's going to trial next month?
Yes.
And are you aware that you are a witness regarding the actions of Abrams and Associates?
Yes.
So this is a lot of lawyers in one room. So basically, this dude is a lawyer at a law firm. The law firm is being sued. That's why this deposition is happening. And he's being called in again as a witness to that lawsuit, but he's also a lawyer in that firm, and he's also representing himself pro se, apparently. So, excellent.
Have you had your deposition taken before?
I think so.
When have you had your deposition taken before?
I don't recall.
How many times?
I don't recall.
Classic word.
You're sitting here today under oath. You have no idea whether you've been deposed before?
Object to form.
I've answered that question. Object to form. Move on.
Mr. Abrams.
Oh, you guys.
Have you been deposed
Object to
before?
form.
Object to form. Move to certify the question. If you feel that I haven't answered, then you can move for a sanction.
We're going to go ahead
Why
and
is he objecting? This is so... Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Stop the deposition at this point and dial the special master.
We're going off the record.
No, we're staying on the record, please.
Special master. You guys, the special master. Who's the special master? I have never in my life heard of the special master, but all I could think of, because when I was watching this right after I finished with the Ezra trial, all I could think of, I'm like, is this some sort of BDSM shit? Like, what's happening? You guys, it gets so, oh my God. We're just getting started.
Would you be prepared to read back my answer to?
So I just have to say, the way I was describing this last night, I was describing this, it's like taking a lion, a shark, and a dinosaur and throwing them all into like a cave or a cage without any supervision and just closing and locking the door and leaving them in there. That's what this is like. There's no grown up, there's no baby, there's no adult supervision. They need the special master.
Special master regarding counsel's questions as to whether or not I answered that question.
So they're calling the special master on speakerphone. I'm gonna lose my mind.
Good morning. Could we speak with David Tenner, please?
AKA special master.
Let me check and see if he's good. May I ask the caller?
Thank you. Yes, these are the parties from
We
the
need help.
Moskowitz versus Dahlman matter, and we are in the middle of a deposition this morning.
They asked one question. They're one question in. And it's already gone. It's already just gone down the tubes.
Okay, hold on just a moment.
They need
Thank
help. So the trouble is a special master, as you will hear, is not in.
He is not in the office at the moment. Can I get a number and have him call you back?
Yes, that would be great. If you could please,
They're all going to
I'll
kill each
send
other.
an email right now.
appreciate it.
They're all going to kill each
You're
other.
welcome.
Bye-bye. Mr.
Stay on the
Abrams.
record here.
Yeah, we're still.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Abrams, I
Right?
want to ask you one more time.
Yeah, totally super planner.
Have you
I-
had your
he's like-
deposition
he's like
taken?
not bad.
Objective form.
Asked and answered, move on.
You need to answer the question.
The question was answered. Excuse me, have her read it back.
Mr. Abrams, this is not your deposition.
Please don't harass me.
No, I'm not
We're going to
harassing
move for
you.
sanctions
I'm
against
asking
you.
you to
If you're not
answer
going
the
to
questions.
allow
He just
for-
answered.
Did you guys hear the word sanctions already? Move for sanctions? What is that? Oh my God.
The question.
He did not answer the question.
He just said he did not recall. That's an answer to the question.
So it's your testimony under oath today, Mr. Abrams, that you do not recall whether or not you've ever been deposed before.
Asked and answered. And so please read
You
my
need
answer
to
back.
answer my questions, Mr. Abrams.
Please read the answer back.
No, do not read the answer back, Mr.
Like-
Abrams.
like the
This
answer
is-
to be read
Let's
back.
move on. How many times have you been named in a lawsuit in your individual capacity?
I can't recall.
Have you ever been named
can't
in a
recall.
lawsuit in your individual capacity?
I think so.
Okay, that's a little bit
Okay.
better than I can.
And when do you think that you were added as a defendant to a lawsuit in your individual capacity?
It may have been, if I get it right, it may have been in the BB matter.
So it's your testimony today, you've been added, you were a defendant in a lawsuit in one matter, and that was the BB matter, is that
Objective
correct?
form.
I think they added me as an individual defendant and they lost the case that went to jury trial. I think that's my recollection.
Oh boy.
I don't remember it very well. The man, BB, attacked me in a stairwell and at my garage, and I think he named me individually in that suit,
Stairwell in his garage? What? You have a 2-story garage?
and then he lost that suit. That's my recollection.
Okay.
Let me ask the question again, Mr. Abrams. Is this BB matter that you're referring to the only time you remember being added as a defendant in a lawsuit?
Objective form.
To my recollection, yes, that's my answer.
And you said the other party was named BB?
Yes,
Okay. What was the other party's full name?
Sean Beeson. We call him BB. I represented him in a matter where him and his wife were both arrested for DUI. He was thrown in a drunk tank for being belligerent, and he sued the city. And then I put a restraining order on him for 9 months
What is
for
happening?
attacking me in a stairwell. And then he sued, I can't remember if he sued me individually, but I think he did. And then he lost that suit outright at jury verdict.
What?
So we're going to move to strike that as irrelevant, object to form, and that it's going to lead to non-discoverable evidence. Under the rules of evidence.
Mr. Abrams, you are not allowed to.
Me.
With all these roll, you guys, hold on. We have to hear that again. That last part with these. I just don't even know.
I put a restraining order on him for 9 months for attacking me in a stairwell, and then he sued. I can't remember if he sued me individually, but I think he did. And then he lost that suit outright at jury verdict. So we're going to move to strike that as irrelevant, object to form, and that it's going to lead to non-discoverable evidence. Under the rules of evidence.
Mr. Abrams, you are not allowed to. I am allowed to interrupt you. This is my
He's giving his
deposition
answer.
today, sir.
And
it is not. You are not allowed to put objections on the record. You are a witness today. And Mr. Abrams, you are represented by counsel. Your counsel is allowed to put objections on the record. You are not today.
I am a lawyer.
Do you understand that?
I am a lawyer. I don't need a lecture from you who doesn't understand the rules of evidence.
Oh my God.
Under the rules of evidence,
Oh my
the
God.
only thing that can come in under
Oh my
the rules of evidence is truthfulness and untruthfulness. So to the extent that you're trying to disparage me because you have me on videotape and embarrass me for things that you can't bring in, I'm going to raise, move to strike, find it objectionable, and then move for sanctions for harassment under Rule 30D. You can look it up if you don't know.
Harassment.
Mr. Abrams,
Oh.
I feel quite confident that if any sanctions are entered in this matter, it's going to be against you
Objective form.
for continuing to obstruct and not answer any of
Objection.
my questions.
Objective
You
form.
cannot object.
I just did.
You cannot.
I just did. I'm a lawyer. I'm a licensed, unblemished member of the bar. Unblemished. If you laugh at me one more time, we're going to walk out.
We're going to move for 30D3
We're
sections.
going to move for harassment sanctions against you right now. Okay, you're laughing at us with the videotape that
I
you
love
published on
This makes me want to
the
be.
internet about you and your rock band, and you're going to be laughing at me.
What?
And you've moved for sanctions and had them denied every single time in this matter, and the jury should see that too. Every single one has led to no sanction,
Mr. Abrams, are
including
you
the last
aware?
one where we quashed all of your subpoenas. And you asked for attorney's fees, you got no sanction.
Mr. Abrams,
Let's move on.
Having a
You have a
good time.
question for me. You sued my firm belligerently under the abuse of your law license, where we countersued you. We have a counterclaim against you for abuse of process for misusing your law license. You sued me for fraud, civil conspiracy, not civil conspiracy, conspiracy, which is a criminal act. And so you did that wrong. And aiding and abetting, which is a criminal act. So you did that wrong. Ask me questions about that or I'm leaving.
I should have been counting how many times people object. Look at him. He's so
Mr. Abrams,
Oh my God.
we're going to be here for a long time today if you do not answer my questions. I just want to let you know that right now
Object to form.
and put that on the record. Mr.
Move for
Sullenberger,
sanctions. Move for sanctions.
I'm sorry.
Stop laughing at
Yes,
my lawyer.
This is
This is-
bizarre.
Stop laughing at my
Bizarre.
lawyer and stop harassing us.
Listen,
Um,
let's
You brought us down here for fraud. Ask us fraud questions.
Mr. Abrams, how many times has your firm been added as a defendant in any lawsuit?
As I can recall, one in the BB matter.
So the BB matter and then this matter as well? Those are the only two times you recall that your firm has been added as a defendant?
Yes, as I recall.
Aside from traffic tickets, have you ever been named in a
Guys.
criminal action?
Did you see that?
objective form.
Did you see that?
Object to form and privilege. So I assert privilege and need not answer.
What privilege are you asserting, sir?
Attorney-client privilege, and we would Under the law, I need not answer that.
What law are you referring to, Mr. Abrams?
I need a law book. And I moved to strike, and I moved for, I moved to strike the question. I refused to answer under privilege, and I moved for a protective order on the question. So certify the question and move on.
You've again not answered my questions. You've made a absolutely baseless assertion of privilege. Are you aware that in a deposition, the proper objections that your lawyer are allowed to make are as to form and as to foundation? If there is a matter that's privileged and your lawyer objects to it on the basis of privilege, he can instruct you not to answer. Otherwise, you need to answer all of the questions that
Here's what's going on here. So he's asserting attorney-client privilege. This is so insane and unhinged. So he's got an attorney there in the room with him, right? But he claims that he's representing himself pro se as a witness. So he's saying that so that then he can object, or he shouldn't even be objecting at all, but then he can assert attorney-client privilege as in because it's with himself. So he did say protective order. You heard that correctly. He mentioned that I think 2 other times so far in this video. But wait, it just gets even crazier here. This is incredible. This is good stuff.
give to you today. Do you understand that, Mr. Abrams?
Are you guys seeing that?
He's raising an objection to privilege.
There's a pending question. Could you please read it back?
What law are you referring to, Mr. Abrams? We can go back.
There we go. There it is.
Aside from traffic tickets,
You guys-
have ever
are you
been
seeing-
named in a criminal action?
What is happening? He's taking.
So objection, privilege.
Oh my
Move on.
You are not answering the question today. You're
Object
refusing
to
to
form,
answer it,
object
Mr.
to
Abrams.
privilege,
Move on.
move on.
The answer. Objection, privilege. Move on.
What privilege are you asserting today, Mr. Sullenberg?
Attorney-client privilege. He's already answered the question.
So Mr. Abrams is saying he has an attorney-client privilege over himself being named as a criminal defendant.
Yes.
And the question's intended to harass and annoy. And under 30D3, again, we're going to move for sanctions for repeated conduct like this.
I can't even get through my initial questions here
That's
because
your
you are being
weak-
so obstructionist
That's
today.
because you're a weak lawyer, but go ahead. You sued me for fraud. Ask me fraud questions. You sued my firm for fraud, aiding and abetting, and conspiracy. You have no evidence. Put something in front of me and we'll answer the questions. You have nothing. You have nothing.
Mr.
Put
Abrams,
something in
are
front
you
of me.
aware that Judge Starrs already ruled that there is substantial evidence against your firm that you committed fraud?
Object to
For misrepresentation. of the
Are you
evidence.
aware?
Mischaracterization.
They're getting
The
there.
fact that the judge
They're
let
getting
you
there.
bring your bogus claim against us doesn't mean that it's merit full. Do you have a fraud question for
You're
me?
getting to
Please
the drug.
answer the question.
He just got asked
I
me.
did.
Are you
We're
aware?
Yes, I'm aware. Move on.
Mr. Abrams, have you ever been arrested?
Object to form and privilege, attorney-client.
That's it.
And you're instructing your client not to answer that question on the basis of attorney-client privilege, Mr. Sullenberger.
It's my understanding that Mr. Abrams had an attorney for any
Unbelievable.
issues that may have arisen, and therefore he can assert.
I also don't recall being
What-
arrested.
What part of my question asked for any attorney-client privilege?
He's not being
communications?
deposed.
I don't have to, I objected. I
We're not even
objected to
asking
form. I objected for privilege for Mr. Abrams.
I am going to end this deposition now.
Okay.
Mr. Abrams, we're going to continue it while we seek intervention of the special master.
Fine.
It's clear that you are not here to answer any questions
clear that
today,
you're harassing
and
us.
you are refusing to answer
We've
any
answered
questions
every
today.
question, read every question down.
Yeah, you have not.
We disagree.
Okay, let's ask a couple more questions.
Here we
Mr.
go.
Abrams, what are the pills that you just took?
There it is.
Object to form.
None of your business. None of
Privilege.
None of
What are those other?
Stop everything. What are the pills that you just took? Object to form. We have to. This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen on all
Pills
of
Up
YouTube.
form.
Okay, answer
We've
any
answered-
questions.
Hold on.
Not here to answer any questions
No, that
today,
you're harassing
and
us.
you are refusing to answer
We've
any
answered
questions
every
today.
question, read every question back.
Yeah, you have not.
We disagree.
Okay, let's ask a couple more questions. Mr. Abrams, what are the pills that you just took?
Object to
None
form.
of your business.
Privilege.
What are those other pills?
Object to form.
Oh my
Object to privilege.
None of your business.
Medical privilege. Don't
Mr. Abrams, are you under any any drugs today? Have you taken any drugs before you came to this deposition today?
No,
Okay. Have you taken any alcohol before you came to this deposition today?
no,
Any medication whatsoever?
no.
No. Just these pills that you're taking here
Yes.
that you are refusing to answer what they are.
Yes.
Medical
None of your
privilege.
business.
Okay.
But I can tell you that if you took some of these, they would help get some of your weight off. I
Oh
can
my
tell
God.
you that.
Oh, you're referring to when you called me fat when you walked in here.
Object- Objective
I don't recall
form.
that.
You don't recall that? Okay. Well, we have a couple witnesses to that, including Mr. Sullenberger.
He's just popping his
In
pills.
any event,
If you want to raise your weight problem, Mr. Ward, with the jury and with the special master, please do. But we're not the ones that are sitting here in that condition.
The special master.
Mr. Abrams, do you recall the motion to quash the subpoena for your testimony
Yes.
that you filed? And you attempted to quash the subpoena to disallow your deposition to be taken, correct?
Object to
Oh, yeah.
form.
I don't recall that. I remember we successfully quashed your bad faith depositions. You moved for attorney's fees and you were denied by the special master. That's my recollection. That he found them, that he found them. When we told you I would be out of town to, in bad faith, then schedule the deposition to pull me out of my vacation, he found that to be objectionable and he commended me on taking a vacation under the stresses of this profession. So I remember the special master
What?
commending me and quashing you. That's my recollection.
Oh, boy.
Are you here today pursuant to the subpoena?
Yes.
Okay. So your subpoena didn't get quashed, did it?
There you
Yes,
go.
it did.
Sure didn't.
Yes, it did. Argumentative. Move on. What are you
Okay,
laughing at? Why do you keep laughing? What is it with you? Why don't you look at the camera and laugh at
Oh, I
them?
know. I know.
Mr. Abrams.
Your
testimony is being taken
Just
today.
ask me some questions about fraud, civil conspiracy, and what other trumped up things you did under your license that we're moving for sanctions against you. Do you realize we sued you for abuse of your law license? Do you realize that? And that we're going to continue to sue you for the way that you've been treating in this matter? You have no evidence. If you do, show the jury, put it in front of us, we'll ask questions. You haven't put one document in front of us. Open something up and make this a meaningful deposition or let me go.
Is there anything else you'd like
I
to
want
say,
to hear
Mr.
from
Abrams?
special
Depends on what your next question is.
In the motion that you filed to
Take more
quash the
pills?
subpoena, isn't it true that you admitted to the special master that you were in fact in town?
Object to form.
We told the special master in a pleading that I returned.
Oh my God.
At home at 3:30 in the morning on the same day that you scheduled my deposition, and that there was no way I was gonna be able to come to the deposition with no sleep.
Well, I wonder if that has to do with the drugs.
We found.
So
your
you were in
conduct to be
town at the
offensive.
time, you were in town on the time that you were scheduled to be deposed, but you
Object to
nevertheless moved
form.
to
Ask
quash.
and answer.
Object to form.
Move on.
Mr. Abrams, are you refusing to answer?
I answered
Object
the
to
question.
form.
Move on.
What is these pills?
You
though?
don't get to not answer when you object.
Object to form.
Do you
I
understand?
answered the question, and I even told you what time I returned on the day. What more? Why are you harassing me?
Mr. Abrams,
Stop harassing me.
listen to my questions. Today, that your job is to listen to my questions and answer your questions under oath. Do you understand?
Objection
Object to form.
asked and answered. Move on.
I'm waiting for your answer, Mr. Abrams.
Her first question was the same question you asked. If we need to go back to the very beginning to ask whether I said I would be here under oath, we can go back and ask the court reporter.
Mr. Abrams, in that motion, you included that Mr. Abrams' anxiety requires him to take medication on extended flights that impairs Mr. Abrams' facilities. Can you please explain what medication you were referring to in your
Object
filing?
to form
No.
medical privilege.
Privilege.
So yes, the special master. So the special master, dude. This is my favorite thing. So the special, typically it's a judge. I don't know what this. I'm assuming the special master is like. I don't even know. I've never heard that before. But yes, they could be. Again, it would be sanctions, right? Is what it would happen here. It would be sanctions, which can be an arrest. Isn't typically an arrest. But one example of that we've seen recently is in the YSL trial. What is his name? Brian Green, I think, was arrested for due to sanctions. He had to spend time in jail because of sanctions. So, but let me see if my file is done. So there's still at 99%. It's got to be so close. So yeah, okay. But we'll go ahead and take a look because we're almost done with this video, so it'll work out time-wise.
Medical privilege.
Yes.
Yes, what privilege is that?
None of your
Absolutely
business.
No right.
No, what medicine I take is none of your business. Move on.
You filed a motion with the special master saying that because of a certain medication that you take, you could not sit for your deposition.
Yes, that medicine's none of your business.
Right.
Move on.
And now
Objection
you've
privilege.
come into this deposition today with a handful of pills that you refuse to answer questions about what they are.
None of your business. HIPAA protection privilege. Move on.
We are going to continue this deposition now, Mr. Abrams. You have made it clear you are not willing to answer any of the questions today. You have been objecting. We are going to move for sanctions against you and your firm for your conduct during this deposition, and we will take that up with the special master.
And we'll represent your conduct during this deposition.
Please do.
For the record, since the moment we've walked in here, I and my counsel have answered every single question and rightfully asserted 30D, I think it's
30D3
for harassment. We've answered every single question. We've asserted privilege where counsel refused to accept privilege. And we've been nothing but harassed under 30D3. We're moving for sanctions. We're moving to quash the deposition for future. And we're here to answer all of the questions regarding why my law firm was surreptitiously brought into this lawsuit for fraud, conspiracy, and aiding, and he hasn't asked one question in furtherance thereof.
We will continue all three of the depositions that are scheduled for today because it is very clear that Mr. Abrams, Mr. Sullenberger, and their firm intend to obstruct discovery in this matter and do not intend to answer the questions today. We will ask that it be reconvened before the special master with Abrams and Associates to pay the full amounts of everything associated with the depositions, including the special master's fee. And we will be filing a motion to take that up with the special master today.
We disagree. We're filing the exact same motion and seeking the exact same sanctions. Anything else?
We will continue the deposition and go off the record at this time.
We're going off the record.
It's just like toddlers. Like, I know you are, but what am I? Like, it was like, whatever they say they're going to do, then they're like, no, I'm going to do it. Right. Oh my God, I know. Okay. Guess what though? That worked out timing wise perfectly because video is done. So yay. Here we go. Woohoo. Let's go.
It's a house.
In the meantime, while all this is going on with George and Cindy Anthony, Casey Anthony is happily in her friend Amy Huizenga's car because days earlier, Amy had taken a trip to Puerto Rico.
Who cares?
Casey has her car. You take us to the trial and everything will be fine. We'll all go home. We'll all be happy.
Let's stop for a moment. Been going for about an hour and a half. Let jurors take a break.
That's crazy.
Want to take a recess? Okay.
Jurors, I think, falling asleep.
Reasonable doubt is not sprinkled throughout this case. Reasonable doubt lives here. Now I want to talk about the car. As I mentioned to you, actually, if you need a break, we can take a break.
Members of the jury, you need your break now?
Do this.
Okay, you can continue.
Go with it. All right.
They're riveted. Incredible.
They've got to present to you a case A to Z to prove their case.
This is incredible, this part.
Well, if the A is George Anthony and saying that he was the last person that saw Caylee, you really can't trust that, now can you? In fact, if you remember the indictment, it says from June 15th, not the 16th. Makes you wonder if they even believe him. If you can't trust George Anthony, and they don't know how she died, if you don't have this, you don't have A, and Mr. Kronk represents Z, you don't even have that.
Were you actually there in the delivery room, or did you have to wait outside?
Well, I was in the delivery room. I was in the delivery room for my own two children, but also being there for Caylee, which was, to me, not only amazing, but also embarrassing to a point.
Sure.
And if I might say that there's sometimes in your life as a father, there's some things of your child you don't want to see again, growing up. But you know something, it's just an experience that it's just.
Oh my God. Why were you in the room?
It's hard to put into words. It's just how elated you are and how happy you are to see your own child give birth. I can't remember if we exactly talked about it prior to just Caylee being born or right after, but I know then it was brought up because, yeah, I wanted to know because I feel it takes two to make this child.
You heard it here first, guys. It takes two people to make a baby.
Is that a normal course of events for you to have some morning time with Caylee?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there would be times that after she'd be in Casey's room with her, she would come out and I'd take her first thing is to make sure that she would freshen herself up, brush her teeth, go use the facility around.
Use the facilities? What is she, in custody?
No, this particular morning, do you recall when you first saw Casey?
Probably could have been about 9, 10 o'clock that morning, roughly right around there, her just getting up and getting her day started and just, I can't remember exactly what she did to get ready that day for work or something like that. I know it was to me, it was a lot of precious time for me to spend with Caylee. So whatever Casey could have done that morning, been on the computer.
Oh my God.
Whatever she was doing, I let her do her thing because when you got time with your grandchild, you know, your own child sometimes takes a back seat to that.
Why?
No, sir, I never had any duct tape.
What were the reasons for you moving out of the house?
Cindy and I had some financial difficulties. We were going through a really tough marital time, and that is a personal matter between her and I, and that's not for the court or you to decide. I'm not on trial here for that. I'd done some gambling on the internet. Yes, sir, that's well established, and I'm not going to deny that. I did it.
Now, did you tell the FBI that it wasn't a gambling problem, that you fell for some Nigerian bank scam?
There was a Nigerian bank scam and also some minor gambling that was done on it. So, I mean, I didn't lie to them. I told them the truth. I'm telling you the truth today.
So it's both. You were gambling and you fell for a Nigerian bank scam as well.
Incredible.
And I believe there's other people that have happened to. Yes, sir, it did. Yes.
Nope, you are literally the only one. And
now, Mr. Anthony, you stated that you never had any duct tape. Is that correct?
I didn't say anything about duct tape.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. You may resume your seat.
This piece of molding is coming off.
Okay, we'll take care of it.
all righty, guys, we're on to our new episode. That was our little recap from last week or last episode.
Cameron Campana, Cameron, Campana, Campana.
May I inquire, sir? Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
If you would again, please introduce yourself to the jury and state your name.
Cameron Campana.
Mr. Campana, how old are you?
23 years old.
Do you currently live in the state of Florida?
No, I live in Cleveland, Ohio.
I'm sorry?
Cleveland, Ohio.
At some point, did you live in Florida?
Yes, I attended college in Orlando.
When did you attend college here in Orlando?
August 2007 to February 2009 at Full Sail University.
Can you tell the jury what Full Sail University is?
It's a media arts school. I attended for recording production of music and music business.
Is that a...
So one thing thing I'll say is, so just to let y'all know, so far we've only had one witness. It was George Anthony, Casey's dad. So this is the second witness of the entire trial. But another interesting point here is we're going to hear from a lot of witnesses, including Casey's boyfriend. They all went to this Full Sail University, and they're all in like the music industry, and which is really interesting because I have a lot of overlapping experience with that, because where I went to college, they have a really good one of the top music industry programs for a university, I think like in the country. So I don't know, it's just funny. I was like, oh, it reminds me of when I was a youngin' in college. And what we're going to hear about too is funny things about how like it's 24 hours a day. Like sometimes they'll be like, oh, what was your class schedule? And they might be like, oh, it was like 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I know exactly why. And it's because you have to book those recording studios. And so you get like a time slot. And I remember that so well. Like when I was playing in bands and doing recordings for people, where like whatever slot they got was when you had to go. And because of the fact that there's a limited number of rooms, and then there's like all these people that need them, it's 24/7. And so whoever, it's like first come, first serve. And if they sign up and they get the 2 a.m. slot or 3 a.m. slot, then that's what it is. So anyway, it's funny.
A 2-year school or a 4-year school?
It's an accelerated pace. It's 1-year programs for your associates and then a 10-month program for your bachelor's.
Mr. Campana, can I ask you to maybe speak up just a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you. How many years did you attend Full Sail?
2007 to 2009, about almost 3 years.
Did you graduate from Full Sail?
Yes, I graduated.
And what type of degree do you get from Full Sail?
Bachelor's of Science in Music Business.
What are you currently doing for a living?
I'm a club promoter for an entertainment company in Cleveland.
Is that in line with the education that you received?
Yes.
Wow.
Back when you attended Full Sail, starting in August of 2007, where did you live?
Sutton Place Apartments.
Do you know the address there?
3834. I forget which apartment number.
Okay. When you lived there, with whom did you live?
What was the?
Who did you live with?
Anthony Lazzaro.
Let's talk a little bit about the apartment. How big was the apartment?
It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. I want to say it was about maybe 1,000 square feet altogether.
And when you first moved in, you lived with Tony Lazzaro?
Yes.
At some point, did you have other roommates?
Yes. Roy House stayed with us briefly, and then Nathan Lezniewicz.
Let's talk about Mr. House first. When did Mr. House first start living in your apartment?
I believe it was November of 2007.
And how long did he stay?
Till about June 2008.
You said this was a 2-bedroom apartment?
Yes.
While Mr. House was staying with you, where did he sleep?
On the couch in the living room.
No. Was this a couch that pulled out into a bed?
No.
He just slept on the couch?
Yeah.
You also mentioned a Nathan Lezniewicz?
Yes.
When did he live with you at the Sutton Place apartment?
It was towards the end of May.
I don't know if I'm crazy, but literally this attorney who's doing the questioning, his name is Frank George. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. But to me, it looks like he's wearing eyeliner. I mean, I don't know.
I believe around May 25th or 26th, he moved in.
And how long did he stay?
Until our lease was up in August 2008.
So at one point, you had 4 men living in this apartment?
Yes.
What were the sleeping arrangements during this time? Where did everybody sleep?
Nate took the couch, and then Roy took the floor until he found his own apartment.
Was he looking for an apartment during this time?
Yes.
Directing your attention to May and June and July of 2008, can you tell the jury what your school schedule was?
We were on a rapid schedule. I was pretty much going to school either 9 to 5 or 1 to 9. It changed every month.
It changed every month?
Yes.
Do you have any specific recollection of what your hours were at school during the month of May of 2008?
I want to say 9 to 5. I know June was 1 to 9.
Okay. So
approach.
Sidebar.
May I continue? Sir?
Just a second.
Thank
I
you.
love it when Judge Belvin goes approach like that, like just so like annoyed, but it's just like he's delightful in a way though. He's not annoyed like the way Judge Bev is.
You may proceed.
It's sassy. It's sassy.
Mr. Campana, going back to June of 2008, you believe your school schedule was 1 to 9.
Yes.
Did your classes or your education also entail you working in any way?
No.
So after you went to classes from 1 to 9, you were done?
Yes.
Do you recall Mr. Lezniewicz's school schedule during June of 2008?
I believe it was 9 to 5. I'm not 100% sure though.
Did you take classes with him during this time?
We were on different schedules in different months because I had taken time off and had to retake classes.
Okay. How about Mr. Lazzaro?
We started at the same time, and he never had to retake classes or anything, so he got ahead of me. But we were on different schedules this same months, usually.
Sir, directing your attention to the end of May, beginning of June of 2008, did you have the occasion to meet Casey Anthony?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury the circumstances by which you came to meet her?
Excuse
How
me?
you met her?
I met her through my roommate Anthony Lazzaro after a birthday party for our friend Daniel Howard.
Do you remember when that party was?
I believe it was May 24th, or around that date. That's when his birthday was.
And Mr. Howard is a friend of yours? What is or was a friend of yours?
Yes, he was a mutual friend with all of us.
When you first met Ms. Anthony, can you tell the jury how she appeared, what her demeanor was?
She was, just a regular 22-year-old girl, happy. Just seemed like, normal and just your average 22-year-old.
Nothing out of the ordinary?
Yeah, no.
Subsequent to that birthday party, did you have the occasion to see Casey Anthony again?
After, yes.
Okay. Can you tell the jury the period after that birthday party? Straight there. Let's go to this question. At some point, did Ms. Anthony start staying with you on a regular basis?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall when that was?
I want to say the middle of June.
Of 2008?
Or towards the end of June, yeah.
Okay.
It was June 2008, I know.
All right. Prior to that period of time when the defendant was more or less staying with you, how many times do you believe you may have seen Ms. Anthony on a social basis?
On social basis?
Yeah.
Inside the apartment or outside?
Let's do both.
I would see her daily once she started staying with us inside the apartment. Outside of the apartment, maybe 2 or 3 times.
The 2 or 3 times that you saw the defendant, were you aware that she had a daughter?
Yes.
Do you know the daughter's name?
Caylee.
Okay. How many times have you met Caylee?
About 4 times, maybe 3.
When you saw Caylee, Anthony, where would you see her?
Either in Anthony Lazzaro's room with Casey or in the living room watching TV.
During this time period that you saw Caylee Anthony at your apartment with the defendant, did they, meaning Ms. Anthony and Caylee, ever spend the night?
Not together.
I'm sorry, what do you mean not together? Did they or did they not spend the night?
Casey did. Caylee never spent the night at the apartment.
All right, so Caylee never spent the night over at your apartment?
No.
When you first met Ms. Anthony, did you ever have any discussions with her about her employment?
She had mentioned to us that she had worked for Universal as an event coordinator.
Was that your understanding that was her job, or she used to work there?
That's what I understood that was her job.
All right. Did she talk about her job?
Every now and then, just brief little things. I don't know specifics, but she had mentioned like picking up tickets for a Batman premiere for The Dark Knight, and just like other little things, saying work is stressing me out and such like that.
The work was stressing her out?
Yeah.
You mentioned something about a Batman premiere?
Yes.
What did Ms. Anthony say about that?
She had told my roommate Anthony Lazzaro that she was going to get red carpet tickets for the premiere, and it never happened.
Statement of the defendant, Your Honor. It goes to her state of mind.
Overruled.
I believe he's referring to a statement by Anthony Lazzaro.
So are you talking about what the defendant told you or Mr. Lazzaro?
About the Batman tickets?
Yes.
I've heard that.
No. You heard that from whom?
From Anthony Lazzaro.
Okay. If that was from Mr. Lazzaro, objection sustained.
Yes, sir. You had mentioned a few minutes ago that at one point Ms. Anthony started staying with you on a regular basis. Is that correct?
Yes.
And again, when would that have been?
Sustained as to the last question.
Did Ms. Anthony begin staying with you in your apartment?
Yes.
When was that?
Some point towards the end of June. Mid-June to end June.
Was this something that you had talked to Mr. Lazzaro about? That she was going to be moving in?
No.
Was this something that you had spoken to the defendant about?
No.
Objection, Judge. Also speculation.
Overruled.
When she started staying at your apartment, was there any understanding that you're aware of about how long she was going to stay?
No, she had told us that she was looking for an apartment with, I believe it was Amy.
Had you ever met Amy?
I believe once.
But when she first started staying there, did you know who Amy was?
No.
Now, you went to school this time from the periods of 1 to 9 in June, correct?
Yes.
During the time that you were with the defendant, did you ever see her getting ready to go to work?
No.
Tell us about when when she started living with you, did you ever see Caylee again?
I believe once, and I can't be 100% positive about that.
Did she ever tell you during the subsequent weeks where Caylee was?
We have asked, and one time she said that she was going to Universal with the nanny. Then another time was the nanny was taking her to Cocoa Beach for a friend's son's birthday party.
Did the defendant ever appear anxious about seeing her daughter?
Sometimes. She would say that she talked to Caylee on the phone and that she was excited. Other than that, I don't think so.
Kind of weird answer, because I'm wondering if he's thinking anxious as in like anxious in a good way, because that's kind of how he answered that. So I don't know.
During the time frames that she was living with you and your roommates, did you ever hear her on the phone purportedly talking to her daughter?
No.
Did you ever hear her talking purportedly to the nanny?
No.
Did she talk on the phone while she lived with you?
She would, but she would always step outside and have a conversation.
Could you see her walking around outside?
I would see her walk around the little pond in the back.
There's a pond in the back of the apartment?
Behind the apartment. If you were standing on our balcony, you could see it from there.
And then would she come back to the apartment?
Yes.
When she came back to the apartment, would she relate to you with whom she was speaking?
One time, she said she was speaking to her mother, and that I asked her why she always goes outside, and she said that was because it's her time to vent.
It was what?
It was her time to vent.
Okay. Did she ever tell you what those arguments or what those discussions were about?
No.
While Ms. Anthony was living with you, how were you guys who was doing the cooking?
I mean, everyone would do their part, but once she started staying on a regular basis, she started cooking dinner and buying groceries.
Would she ever ask you if anybody needed anything at the store?
Yes.
And would she return with those items?
Yes.
Did she ever do laundry?
Yes.
Whose laundry did she do?
Mostly hers.
Relevancy?
Your Honor, it's relevant to her state of mind and her conduct during this time period. May we approach?
Overall, at this point,
Thank you, sir. You can continue.
It was mostly her laundry, sometimes Anthony's, Lazzaro's, and I believe one time she even did mine.
Did you ask her to?
No.
What about cleaning the apartment? Who cleaned the apartment?
She helped clean. We all helped keep it.
Your Honor,
overall,
We'd all take part in cleaning, but she would help clean more often.
as part of your studies at Full Sail, did you have a computer?
Yes.
What type of computer did you have?
Apple MacBook Pro.
Was that given to you by the school?
Yeah, it was a package deal that we could get with classes.
To your knowledge, did your roommates also have computers?
Yes, we all had Apple MacBook Pros.
Did you ever see the defendant with a computer?
Yes.
What type of computer did she have?
I'm not sure the brand, but it was a PC laptop.
While she was living with you, did you see her using that laptop?
Yes.
Did you ever use her laptop?
No.
To your knowledge, did she ever ask to borrow your computer?
No.
To your knowledge, did she ever ask to borrow anybody else's?
No.
So during this time period that the defendant was living with you, can you describe to the jury what her general demeanor was?
She just seemed just the same. Nothing had changed. She was happy. She seemed, excited about life.
Did you ever socialize with the defendant outside of the apartment?
I believe that one or two times.
Where would that have been?
Excuse me?
Where would that have been?
Once at one of my friend's apartments that her and Tony stopped by at, and I can't be positive about the second time.
Have you ever heard of the Fusion Ultra Lounge?
Yes.
What is that?
It was a restaurant / club lounge that served food and had nightlife at night.
I'm sorry?
They would have nightlife events at night.
To your knowledge, have you ever spent any time with the defendant at that particular club?
No.
Overruled.
Wait, what was the joke? So I was going to say too, oh, that's funny. Everyone's laughing. So these questions about fusion, and is it a bar? Is it a restaurant? What is it? It becomes kind of like Lolly with the shoveling of the apron. It's really funny, but I want to hear what this joke was. Let me back it up just a second.
And I can't be positive about the second time.
Have you ever heard of the Fusion Ultra Lounge?
Yes.
What is that?
It was a restaurant / club lounge that served food and had nightlife at night.
I'm sorry?
They would have nightlife events at night.
To your knowledge, have you ever spent any time with the defendant at that particular club?
No.
Overruled.
I couldn't hear what the objection was. Can anyone tell what the objection is? I heard objection, but I couldn't hear what he was saying because I think he was laughing too much, and so is everyone else. So you back it up one more time and see. I wish I could hear the joke. I mean, it's really funny, right? Because like, in not every courtroom would that be tolerated, you know?
And had nightlife at night.
I like it when they.
I'm sorry?
They would have nightlife events at night.
To your knowledge, have you ever spent any time with the defendant at that particular club?
No.
Overruled.
Oh, that's
All right. During this time period, did you drink alcohol?
Yes.
While you were at the apartment, did the defendant ever drink with you?
No.
So
How
this
about
is
outside
something-
of the apartment?
I just have to say, this is something that's really interesting.
I've seen her. I never saw her, but she would come home sometimes and would be drunk. I think it was just like one time I saw her come back.
So I think he's the only witness that says that, and I'm not discrediting what he's saying, but it's really interesting how, from what I remember when I was putting this together, these witnesses that all come in and talk about, they're the roommates and the friends and whatnot, they say she never drank. And it's really interesting because, again, the reason this episode was called, she seemed like a fun party girl. That was the reputation that she had, at least, in terms of the general public opinion. And even from the friends, but it's really interesting how she's going out to the clubs and we're going to hear about how she's promoting the clubs and whatnot, and I think most of us probably, even with just the general background knowledge, remember probably hearing about stuff like that, right? The hot body contest and everything. And it's really interesting because I don't know if there's that many people who'd be going out to these clubs in somewhere like Orlando, working with these youngsters who are DJs and whatnot, and promoting clubs and doing hot body, and not drinking. It's interesting. I think that if anything, that probably, not that it should be held against her if she was drinking, but if you're on that jury, that I would imagine that that's, in terms of her character, again, it's coming in from the state, but it's making her look pretty good, right? At least to a certain extent.
Have you ever been to have you ever met George or Cindy Anthony?
No.
Had you ever been over to George or Cindy Anthony's home?
No.
While she was living with you, did you ever see any article of clothing that belonged to Caylee?
Only stuff that she would bring over if she brought her over in the morning, like a swimsuit, because we had a pool.
And that's when you actually saw Caylee, correct?
Yes.
All right. How about after she started living with you, did you ever see any article of clothing belonging to Caylee?
Not that I saw.
Any toys?
Maybe a book. I think there was a book, a Pink Panther video too.
This was while she was living with you?
I believe so.
All right. Any stuffed animals?
No.
During the time period that she was living with you, did she ever tell you that her daughter was missing?
No.
Did she ever tell you that her daughter had been kidnapped?
No.
Did she ever tell you that while you were out in classes, she was out looking for her daughter?
No.
Did she at any time ever ask you for any help in trying to find her daughter?
No.
Are you aware of an incident, without going into any detail, are you aware of an incident on July 15th when the defendant's mother came to your apartment?
I had class till 9. I got home and Anthony and Nathan had told me what had happened.
Okay.
Somebody else told you.
Right.
Well, I came home and...
You were not home when any of that may have happened?
Excuse me?
You were not at home when any of that
No,
may have happened?
I wasn't home.
Did you have the occasion to meet Lee Anthony later on that night?
Yes.
And had you ever met him before?
No.
And when he came over, did you say anything to him?
I just told him I was sorry to hear about what happened, and if there's anything that we can do, we'll help.
What can you tell the jury about Lee's demeanor when you saw him that night?
He seemed calm, but at the same time, he was worried.
Did you give him any items that belonged to the defendant that night?
He came and picked up a bag of clothes that Casey had in Anthony's room.
Did you actually witness him take those items or that bag out of the apartment?
Yes.
Did you have any other contact with the defendant after that night?
No.
Did you have any other contact with Lee Anthony after that night?
No.
I have 1 second, Judge. Thank you very much, sir. I have no further questions. Thank you, Judge.
Cross-examination.
Mr. George. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr.
Campana.
Campana. Were you in Casey's home on June 16, 2008 when Caylee drowned?
No.
No further questions.
Folks, was your microphone on, Mr. George? I cannot hear you, sir. So it's not on the record. You can cut your microphones off, but as I told y'all in the back, I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry, sir.
And the court reporter cannot hear you.
The question was assuming facts not in evidence. We'd ask that the question be struck.
Overruled.
I have no further questions.
May the witness stand down. Thank you, sir. State may call their next witness.
Crucial. Let me back that up. That was crucial and something that was really easy to miss. Let me back that up real quick. So that one question on cross, just the one question. Check it out.
Contact with the defendant after that night?
No.
Did you have any other contact with Lee Anthony after that night?
No.
I have 1 second, Judge. Thank you very much, sir. I have no further questions. Thank you, Judge.
Cross-examination.
Mr. George. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr.
Campana.
Campana. Were you in Casey's home on June 16, 2008 when Caylee drowned?
No.
There it is. Were you at the house when Caylee drowned? That's it. Because remember, the state's theory, best we can tell from the opening statement, is that she was knocked out with chloroform and then suffocated and like with duct tape and then like I guess buried in the backyard and then transported later to the swampy thing or whatever it is, woods. So the whole thing about the pool is only like the state's taking a strategy of keeping far away from that pool, right? So it's an interesting approach because it's like, well, you know, I've been under the impression that there was an agreement that she drowned in the pool, but that it was over the nature of, was it accidental or was it, you know, someone drowned her, right? But really the state's taking the opposite approach of, which is like the pool was not involved, right? Which is interesting because the problem with that is if the jury believes that the pool was involved, then that's it. I mean, the state's theory is done because the state's theory is like, does not involve the pool at all. It's like, in fact, it's saying that that's not what happened. So, but what's interesting is the objection here. He's going to object to saying facts not in evidence, and the judge overrules it. So,
No further questions.
Folks, was your microphone on, Mr. George? I cannot hear you, sir. So it's not on the record. You can cut your microphones off, but as I told y'all in the back, I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry, sir.
And the court reporter cannot hear you.
The question was assuming facts not in evidence. We'd ask that the question be struck.
Overruled.
I have no further questions.
May the witness stand down. Thank you, sir. State may call their next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State, we call Nathan Lezniewicz.
My name is Nathan Lezniewicz, Nathanielwicz.
poor guy. How often do you think people ask him how to pronounce that last name and try, and then they get it wrong, and then he helps them, and then they get it wrong, and then, or they try to spell it and they get it wrong? How often? I mean, I just, you know.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
How are you?
Not too bad.
All right. Am I pronouncing your name correctly as Lezniewicz?
Lezniewicz.
Lezniewicz.
Just said that.
Sorry about that.
Just said Lezniewicz.
Good morning, sir. Where do you currently live in Florida?
Yes, sir.
Where do you live?
I live in Fort Pierce.
How long have you lived there?
I grew up there, and I moved back about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Was there a time period where you lived in Orlando?
Yes, sir.
When did you live here in Orlando?
2007 to 2009.
Why?
I was going to school at Full Sail University.
We heard a little bit about Full Sail, but what were you doing at Full Sail?
I was going to school for audio engineering.
For audio engineering?
Yep.
How long did you attend Full Sail?
For a year and a half.
While you were at Full Sail, did you obtain any type of degree?
No, sir.
And can you tell the jury what you're doing now?
I currently play in a band called Kaya Vibe out of Vero Beach. I play in a band. I'm a musician.
Whoa.
Kaya Vibe.
How do you spell that?
I play keyboard and percussion.
Did you also play in bands or while you attended Full Sail?
Yes, sir.
While you were attending Full Sail, where did you live?
I lived at Sutton Place with Tony and Cameron.
Tony, what's his last name?
Lazzaro and Cameron Campana.
When did you first start living with Mr. Lazzaro?
The end of May in 2008, I believe 2008.
All right. When you moved in with Mr. Lazzaro, where did you sleep?
I slept on the couch.
How long were you planning on staying?
About a month and a half until their lease ended. My original lease had ended, and then Tony and me and another gentleman were going to move into another apartment starting when Tony's lease ended there at Sutton Place.
So you were just kind of buying time until
You're right, until Tony's lease was up.
All right. Did you attend classes with Mr. Lazzaro?
Yes, I did.
During this time period?
Not during this time period, no.
During the time period of, let's go with the end of May, June, and July of 2008, do you recall what your school schedule was?
I believe my school schedule for the month of June was 9 to 5.
Did you work outside of going to school?
I was a musician. I traveled with my band playing.
Did you have performances to give during this time period?
Yes, sir.
Did you perform locally or did you leave town?
All over the place. I'd leave town a lot.
Did there come a time during this time period of May, June 2008 where you met Casey Anthony?
Yes, sir.
How did you first meet Ms. Anthony?
The drummer for my band, Daniel Howard, he was having a birthday party on, I believe it was May 24th, and that's where Tony and Casey first met, and that's where I also met Casey.
What can you tell the jury about your first impressions or how the defendant was acting when you first met her?
Seemed like just, like a normal 21, 22-year-old girl. I mean, she seemed fine. She was outgoing. She was talkative.
How did she and Tony appear to get along?
They seemed to get along great.
Were you aware at that first meeting that the defendant had a daughter?
No, not at first. No, sir.
When did you first become aware that the defendant had a daughter?
It had to be very shortly thereafter, probably in the next week or two to follow. Probably the next few days, actually.
Did you ever meet her daughter?
Yes, I did.
What was her name?
The thing is this. You've got this 2-bedroom apartment, okay? You've got 4 college dudes living there. They're college dudes that are at Full Sail University. They've got these crazy schedules that seem pretty rigorous. They're also working. It's a bachelor pad. And then they've got this lady, Casey staying there, part-time, and then she eventually kind of moves in. And I mean, at that age, if you're in that realm, right? You're in college, right? You're in Orlando. It's so, I find it so interesting that they were so, not, what's the right way to say it? They're also accepting of the fact that she's a mom. and even having Caylee at the apartment with them, right? Like, it's interesting how none of them were like, oh, she's a mom. She's not, I don't know. They all met Caylee, and Caylee was over there, and even just the fact that they've already got 4 people living there, and it's a 2-bedroom place, and then they have another person, well, 2 people when Caylee's there. But I think it's interesting. Like, again, this is just a roommate, temporary roommate at the house, and within a week of Tony meeting Casey, he already knows about Caylee. It's just interesting.
It's Caylee.
Where did you meet Caylee?
At my apartment.
You met her, actually.
How many times in all do you think you've seen Caylee Anthony?
2 to 3 times.
During this time period, when you first met the defendant and she came over to your apartment with her daughter, did she ever spend the night?
Did Casey ever spend the night, or did Caylee ever spend the night?
Both together?
No, sir.
No. Did there come a time where the defendant started spending more time at your apartment?
Yes, sir.
Did there come a time when she basically stayed every day?
Yes, sir.
When was that?
Approximately the 3rd and 4th week of June was when her staying over picked up quite a bit.
I take it you've had conversations with the defendant while she stayed with you?
Yes, sir.
Times. Did she ever tell you anything about her employment?
She said that she was employed at Universal Studios.
Did she tell you what she did at Universal Studios?
Event coordination, event planning, event coordination.
Did you ever see any IDs, like an ID badge or anything that would tell you that she worked at Universal?
No, sir.
Did she ever talk about her work?
Every once in a while.
Okay. What would she tell you about her work?
The only thing that we had ever talked about was a Batman premiere that was coming up when Batman first came out.
What about a Batman premiere?
That Universal was doing a premiere and that she could get some tickets for some of the other guys in the apartment there that were interested in going.
Okay. Were you interested in going?
If there was a ticket available, I would go.
Was there a ticket available?
Relevancy?
Your Honor, it goes to the defendant's state of mind.
Sustain.
Other than that, would she ever complain about her work?
No, sir.
I believe you said that during this time period, you were going to classes from 9 to 5.
Yes, sir.
While you were getting ready to go to school, did you ever observe the defendant getting ready to go to work?
She'd get ready. She would leave when we would leave in the morning. I just naturally assumed that was where she was heading, was to work.
And would you come or usually come straight home from your classes back to the apartment?
It all depends.
Okay. To your knowledge, did the defendant have a key to that apartment?
No, sir.
Were there times that you would come home from class or after your day that the defendant was there?
And the defendant was there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you spend time alone with her while her boyfriend was
Yes,
out of
sir.
school or whatever?
Yes, sir.
All right. What did you guys do?
Hang out, watch TV. It's with Full Sail, with the way the schedule works, everyone's in transition all the time. People are constantly coming and going. You're home for a few hours to maybe eat, get a couple hours sleep or watch TV, and then you're right back at lab or back in class again for the afternoon or evening.
Was the defendant easy to talk to?
Yes, sir.
Was she? How would you describe this time period while she was living with you? Her demeanor.
Seemed normal. Happy. Everything was fine. I didn't notice any. Nothing caught my eye as far as her personality or mood swings or anything like that.
Now, you had testified a few minutes ago that you had seen Caylee Anthony approximately 2 to 3 times.
Yes, sir.
When she started living or staying for extended periods of time at your apartment, did you ever see Caylee?
No, sir.
Did that ever seem odd to you?
It did. I didn't pay too much attention to it. Campana and I had a conversation about it, I think once or twice, that we hadn't seen Caylee around in a couple of weeks.
Did you ever ask the defendant where Caylee was?
Yes, sir, I did.
What did she tell you?
That she was at at that time that she was at Disney World with the nanny and that they were going to Cocoa to the beach the following day.
Were you ever told any other places where Caylee was?
Just typically that she was with the nanny and they were out doing various things. I mean, it was summertime. Didn't really raise a flag to anyone. It seemed like a typical summertime things to do.
Was there anything about the defendant's demeanor when she told you where Caylee was that made you worried?
No, sir.
That made you question what she was telling you?
No, sir.
While the defendant was living with you, did she ever tell you anything about her parents?
Not much, sir, no.
You say not much. What do you recall her saying?
When her and her mother would have phone conversations, she would leave the apartment to have those conversations because she said from time to time that they would get in arguments on the phone and she didn't want us to have to listen to them argue on the phone.
Did you ever hear an argument that the defendant had with anybody on the phone?
No, sir.
Did you ever hear her speaking purportedly to her daughter on the phone?
No, sir.
Did you ever hear her speaking purportedly to the nanny on the phone?
No, sir.
Now, outside of... Let's strike that. Were you aware during this time period that did the defendant have an automobile?
Excuse me?
Did she have a car?
Yes, sir.
What kind of car did she have?
It was a little white car. I'm not sure exactly what kind of car it was.
During this time period, did you ever ride in that car?
No, sir.
Did you ever get near the car?
No, sir.
Did the defendant ever tell you that she was having any car trouble during this time period?
Just one day when she had broken down around the corner at the Amscott and Tony had left in the morning to go pick her up. That was the only time that I recall.
Were you home when the defendant called regarding that?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Tony leave to go get her?
Yes, sir.
Were you at home when they came back to your apartment?
Yes, sir.
How long was Tony gone approximately?
Maybe 15, 20 minutes at the most.
Do you have any recollection of them coming home with anything?
No, sir. I don't remember exactly if she came home with anything or not.
So what type of things would the defendant do while in the apartment? Did she cook?
Yes, sir.
Did she clean?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever do your laundry?
Did she ever do my laundry? No, sir.
Outside of the apartment, did you socialize with the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Where would that be?
Fusion nightclub, mostly on Friday evenings.
What is Fusion nightclub?
It's a restaurant bar on the eastern side of Orlando, there closer to UCF.
Were there any particular things going on Friday nights there?
Tony and Roy House and a couple of their friends had a production company, an event type company where they go around to various bars and clubs and promote events and just try to get people in the door and everything. So Friday nights they were working at Fusion.
Okay. How many times do you believe that you've been at Fusion with the defendant?
2 or 3 times, maybe.
Can we bring... Objection to what?
Well, it's not being published to the jury. You're objecting to a picture? Okay, let's let him look at the picture. I haven't seen it yet, and it's not published to the jury, so let's wait. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I can't see it.
It doesn't come to your monitors here. The judge doesn't.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, sir. I'm showing you what's been marked for identification BS. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, sir.
What is that a picture of?
That is a picture of myself and Casey Anthony.
Okay. Do you recall on what date that photograph was taken?
I don't recall the exact date, no, sir.
Okay. Was there ever a time when you were at Fusion with the defendant that she participated in a contest.
Yes, sir.
What type of contest was that?
It was a hot body contest.
Okay. Objection sustained unless you can put it in the date.
Well, that's what I was trying to work on, Judge.
Well, you need to work on it.
Thank you.
Because he just said he doesn't remember dates, so.
The dress that the defendant is wearing, can you see it in that picture?
Yes, sir.
Does that in any way help you determine on what date that picture might have been was taken?
How the hell would that help?
No,
Like, does it know her dress schedule? Like, what?
Sir.
Okay.
I'd been there a couple times with her, and I don't know exactly which date this was, which Friday this was.
Okay. Do you know where that photograph was taken?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where was that photograph taken?
At Fusion.
Was this during the month of June of 2008?
Was not relevant. As to that question, overruled.
We would ask for a sidebar.
Not at this point.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Was this picture taken in June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does that picture appear to be a true and accurate representation of what you looked like and what the defendant looked like in June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move what's been marked for identification BS into evidence as states number 3, I believe.
Mr. Baez.
We would object to relevance as well as equal appeal.
Okay.
I think we have further argument on this. Like you really should hear.
Okay. We can approach. You may proceed. Objection overruled.
Thank you, Judge. Again, at this time, the state would move what's been previously marked for identification BS into evidence in states number 3.
It would be entered as evidence of a defense objection as states numbered.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, may I publish that photo?
You have a standing objection, Your Honor, on all of these issues, so
Okay. Based upon prior motions, you have a standing objection to this line of photographs. You may publish to the jury.
Thank you. During the times that you were with the defendant at Fusion, how would you describe her demeanor to the jury?
She always seemed like she was having a good time. I mean, she's not an introvert by any means. I mean, she's outgoing personality. She liked to go out and have a good time.
At any time that she was living in your apartment, did you ever see her distraught?
Ever see her what?
Distraught.
No, sir.
Depressed.
No, sir.
Scared.
No, sir.
Angry.
No, sir.
Worried.
No, sir.
At any time that you knew Casey Anthony while she was living with you, did she ever tell you that her daughter was missing?
No, sir.
That her daughter had been kidnapped?
No, sir.
That while you were out at school, she was out looking for her?
No, sir.
Did she ever ask you for help in trying to find her?
No, sir.
Were you present at your apartment on July 15th of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what you and your roommates were doing in the early evening hours of that night?
The only ones home were me and Tony Lazzaro, and we were playing video games, sitting on the couch waiting for the All-Star game to start that evening.
Who else was home?
It was just me and Tony, and Casey Anthony was there.
What was the defendant doing while you guys were playing the video games?
I don't exactly remember. She was just, just kind of hanging out here and there, bouncing around. I don't know if she was doing laundry at the time or not, but, she was just there hanging out.
Again, during this time period, was there anything about the defendant's demeanor that gave you any concern whatsoever?
No, sir.
At some point, was there a knock on the door?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what happened when there was a knock on the door?
When there was first a knock at the door, Casey Anthony answered the door, and there was a blonde girl there that I did not recognize. At that point, Casey proceeded to step outside the apartment and close the door for a couple minutes. She returned back to the apartment, coming in, followed by, now I know to be her mother, Cindy Anthony, and also with Amy Huizenga.
Without going into any specifics about what was said, did you see the defendant come back into the apartment after she left with the blonde girl?
Yes.
Okay. What happened when she came back in with the blonde girl?
She came back in, and her and Cindy Anthony were in an argument, and Cindy Anthony had asked her to grab her things and to let's go, to which Casey Anthony had replied that she'll go outside and speak with her, but that she wasn't leaving.
Did she go outside?
Yes, sir.
Did she come back?
No, sir.
After she left with her mother, did you ever see in person Casey Anthony again?
No, sir.
Did you ever speak with her on the phone again?
No, sir.
At some point, did you meet her brother Lee?
Yes, sir.
Well, tell me how you were feeling when this happened. I mean, she's taken out. What was your thought process?
We were just kind of a little confused at the time. We didn't know what was going on. We just figured, it was something between her and her mother and her roommate, and just left it at that for the time being.
Okay. Were you worried about anything?
No, sir.
At some point, did you meet Lee Anthony?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury approximately how long, I know you weren't looking at a watch, but approximately how long after the defendant had left that you met her brother?
Maybe, if I remember correctly, it was early evening when Casey left. It was probably mid to later evening. I'd say somewhere between 9 and midnight when Lee Anthony came by.
Okay. What can you tell the jury about his overall demeanor? What was his state?
Lee at that point had kind of felt bad for us a little bit. He said his sister was known to get into trouble here and there, and that he wished that he had met us prior so that he could warn us to.
What's the objection? Sustain.
Don't want you to talk about what anybody other than you said.
Okay.
All right. Just asking about general demeanor. Was he nice to you?
Yes, he was, sir.
Did he appear angry?
No, sir.
Did he appear worried?
Yes, sir.
While he was at the apartment, did you give him anything?
He gathered a few of Casey Anthony's belongings. What exactly, I don't know. If I remember correctly, Tony was the one who helped him gather up some of her belongings.
During this night, were you also visited by law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
How many times?
Twice.
The first time law enforcement came, was that before Lee Anthony came over or after Lee Anthony came
Before Lee came over.
When the deputy came over, was anything, to your knowledge, given to him?
Yes, sir.
What was given to him?
A cell phone.
Did you give that to law enforcement, or did Tony give it to him?
Anthony Lazzaro gave that. Tony Lazzaro gave that to law enforcement.
At that time, did law enforcement question you about anything?
No, sir.
How long was law enforcement there that first time?
5 minutes, just long enough to collect the cell phone and to fill out a receipt form or some sort for it.
And then Lee came over.
Yes, sir.
At a subsequent time, I believe you testified, law enforcement came back.
Yes, sir.
How long after Lee had left did law enforcement come back?
I can't say exactly, maybe an hour or two.
By this time, were you aware, or were you made aware that no one had seen Caylee for an extended period of time?
Yes, sir.
When the police came to your apartment the second time, what did they do while they were there?
They searched the apartment.
Did you have any problem with them searching the apartment?
No, sir.
How long were they there all in all?
Maybe 20, 25 minutes.
Did they take items with them?
I do not recall, sir.
While the defendant was staying with you on a daily basis in June and into July of 2008, did you ever see any article of clothing belonging to Caylee Anthony?
No, sir.
Did you ever see any toys belonging to Caylee Anthony?
No, sir.
Any stuffed animals belonging to Caylee Anthony?
Not that I recall, sir, no.
Thank you. I have no further questions of the witness, Judge. Thank you.
approximate length of your cross-examination? That's why I'm asking you your approximate length.
Approximate length? 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay? You may proceed.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I don't want to butcher your last name. Can you repeat that for me?
Yes, it's Lezniewicz.
Lezniewicz?
Lezniewicz.
Lezniewicz. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
sir. Mr. Lezniewicz, you saw Caylee how many times?
2 to 3 times approximately.
Okay. Did she appear hungry to you at any time?
No, sir.
Did she look well-fed,
Yes, sir.
well taken care of?
Yes, sir.
Was Casey attentive to her?
Yes, sir.
And did you ever see Casey strike her or yell at her or
No,
treat her
sir.
improperly?
No, sir.
And in fact, in your opinion, she was a good mother, from what you saw. I'll rephrase, Judge. I'll rephrase.
Okay, rephrase it.
Now, subsequent to where you are today, you found out, of course, that during that time that Casey was living with you, that Caylee was no longer with us, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, looking back at Casey's behavior, there was absolutely no indication to you that Casey gave you that Caylee was dead.
No, sir.
And there was no signs in any way, shape, or form as far as you and the outside world could see. Or as
No,
far
sir.
as you could see, I should say.
No, sir.
Now, Casey's car, where did she park the car when she lived with you?
In the parking lot.
Right next to your car?
Well, I mean, it's random as far as parking spaces go and who gets one, but typically we were all within a few parking spaces of each other, yes, sir.
Okay. And she didn't park 50 yards away?
No, sir.
Where no other cars were parked?
No, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions, Judge.
Any other questions of this witness, Mr. George? Okay.
Sir, were you present on June 16, 2008 at Casey Anthony's home when Caylee drowned in the pool?
No, sir.
No further questions.
Okay, any other questions of this witness?
Not at this time.
Okay, sir, you may stand down.
Roy House.
Both, just a second. Go ahead.
Roy House, ROYHOUSE. I go by Clint, CLINT.
Oh, both sides, a rule of procedure has been invoked. Both sides will be responsible for advising their witnesses as to the rule. And the rule is expanded to include being able to look at electronic devices and listen to folks' testimony. So make sure you incorporate those things too.
Yes,
Mr. George, you may continue.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You are Clint House.
Yes, sir.
Mr. House, how old are you?
25.
Do you currently live in Florida?
Yes, I do.
Where do you live in Florida?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Say Jacksonville?
Jacksonville, yes, sir.
Was there a time that you lived in Orlando?
Yes, sir.
When did you live in Orlando?
From 2007 to 2009.
Why were you in Orlando?
Was going to school at Full Sail.
We've heard a little bit about Full Sail already, but can you tell the jury what you were studying there?
I was there for recording arts, learning how to engineer and produce music.
How long, all in all, how long were you at Full Sail?
About 10 months.
Did you achieve a degree?
No, I did not.
Are you employed now, sir?
Yes, I am.
What do you do?
Work for my parents' company, First Coast Chem Dry in Jacksonville.
What kind of company is that?
It's a carpet cleaning company.
When you were attending Full Sail, where did you live?
I lived with Tony and Cam.
Is that at the Sutton Place apartment?
At the Sutton Place apartment, yes, sir.
From what time periods did you live there in 2008?
I was only there for a few months. I moved in at the end of April and was out at the beginning or at the end of June
of 2008.
of 2008. Yes, sir.
During that time period, where did you sleep?
Sometimes on the couch, sometimes on the floor. We were all in a transition period waiting for Tony's lease to run out because me, Nate, and Tony were going to get a place together.
During May, June, and July of 2008, you were attending Full Sail, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall during that time period what hours that you were in school?
It ranged. There were some times that I'd be in school at 1 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the morning. There was times that I'd get there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and be there at until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The hours range just based on different classes.
During the time period of May, June of 2008, did you meet a woman by the name of Casey Anthony?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall when you first met her?
Yes, me and Tony met her at a party that one of our friends was throwing.
Do you remember the friend's name?
No, I do not.
All right. Do you know whether or not that was the first time that your roommate Tony actually met Casey Anthony?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So you met her the same day?
The same night, yes, sir.
All right. What do you recall about meeting Ms. Anthony on that date?
She seemed like a fun party girl, somebody that would probably get along well with our group of friends.
Did, at that first meeting, were you aware that she had a child?
Yes, I was.
How did you become aware of that?
From Tony. He had said that he was talking to a girl named Casey, but she had a kid.
Do you have any specific recollection of the defendant speaking about Caylee on that first meeting?
Not on that first meeting, no, sir.
Did you ever meet Caylee Anthony?
Yes, I did.
Where did you first meet Caylee Anthony?
At the Sutton Place Apartments.
How many times in all do you think that you've seen Caylee Anthony?
4 or 5 times.
Did Caylee Anthony ever spend the night over at your apartment with Tony and your other roommates?
No, she never actually stayed over.
Did there come a time when Casey Anthony started staying at your apartment more or less full time?
Yes, there was.
And do you recall generally when that was?
Right around the beginning of June into the middle of June is when she started being over there every single day and spending most of her nights over there.
Did you mind that she did that?
No, not at all.
Was this a big apartment to your mind?
No, it wasn't a very big apartment at all. We were all kind of crammed in there.
Overruled. Previous objection will be noted.
Now, while she was staying with you and your roommates, did Casey Anthony ever tell you anything about her employment?
Yes, she told us that she worked at Universal Studios.
Did you ever see any ID cards or anything that would reflect that she actually did work there?
Never saw any credentials.
Did she ever tell you about her work?
No.
Did you ever complain about work?
No.
Did you ever see her getting ready to go to work?
I would see her appear like she was getting ready to leave the apartment, and she would say that she was going to work. So, yes.
Then would you subsequently see her later on that evening?
She'd come back.
Okay. But when she came back, did she tell you about her day at work?
She was pretty silent about it. She didn't really, like I said, she didn't really talk about her work all that much.
Now, you had testified that when you first met Casey Anthony, you had seen Caylee 2, 3, or 4 times, somewhere around there, correct?
Yes.
When she started staying with you full time, did you ever see Caylee Anthony?
No, that was when she started staying over at the apartment on a regular basis was when we stopped seeing Caylee.
Did you ever ask her where Caylee was?
Yes, we did.
Not we, you. Did
Yes.
you ever ask her?
Yes, I did.
All right. What did she tell you?
She said that she was with the nanny.
Okay. Did the nanny have a name?
She never really said the name. She never said the name to us. She just referred to her as the nanny.
Did she indicate that the nanny was local?
Yes.
Did she ever indicate to you that Caylee was anywhere other than Orlando?
No.
Did it ever seem odd to you that the child was always with the nanny?
Mr. George.
I'm not asking him to speculate. I'm asking him.
Overall?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Did you ever find it odd that Caylee was never over at the apartment?
Same objection, Judge. He's asking for his opinion.
Sustain us to that question.
Did you ever question the defendant about where Caylee was?
We asked her, or I asked her, where, I haven't seen Caylee in a while, where is she? And like I said, she said she was with the nanny.
When she told you that, was there ever any concern in her voice when she told you that?
No.
Did she ever appear worried about where Caylee was?
No.
Did she ever seem sad that she did not see her?
Her demeanor never changed. She was the same person.
When you say that, was her demeanor any different during this time period when Caylee was not around than when you first met the defendant with Caylee?
No.
Did you also have a laptop?
Yes, I did.
And that was part of the full sale enrollment, I guess?
Yeah, when we enrolled, it was wrapped up into our tuition, so we basically did pay for it, but yes, I did have a laptop.
Did you ever see the defendant with a laptop?
Yes, I did.
What type of laptop did she have?
I believe it was an HP, regular base model Windows computer.
Did you ever use her computer?
No, sir.
Did she, to your knowledge, ever use yours?
No, not to my knowledge.
Did you ever see her, the defendant, use any computer other than her own?
No.
While she was staying with you, were you ever present while she spoke on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. When she spoke on the phone, do you know to whom she was speaking?
She would leave the apartment to take phone calls. She would walk outside. She would walk out onto the porch or walk out to the front door. And every time it was either she was on the phone with the nanny or she was on the phone with her mom.
Is that what she told you when she came back?
Yes.
When she came back after these phone calls, did you ever notice any change in demeanor on the part of Casey Anthony?
No, sir.
Did she ever appear worried?
No, sir.
Or nervous?
No, sir.
Or scared?
No, sir.
Would it be fair to say that you saw Casey Anthony on a regular basis during this time?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say you saw her on a daily basis during this time?
Yes.
Other than hanging out within the apartment, did you ever hang out outside of the apartment?
Yes.
Where do you recall going with her and other people?
Overall at this point.
Every Friday night, we had our own promotional night at Club Fusion. Me, Tony, we're business partners. We were the DJs, and she would come every Friday night, and she was trying to help us bring people out. And so yes, every Friday night we were at Fusion, and then there was a few times that we went out to regular or random bars in Orlando, around the UCF area or the downtown area.
When you say that the defendant helped bring people out, what do you mean?
She was a promoter. She would, because she was Tony's girlfriend, she would help talk to her friends, tell her friends to come to the club, because the more people that came out, obviously, the more money we were going to make. And so that's what she would do for us.
How did she do that?
Just by telling her friends, text messaging, Facebook, MySpace, telling them to come out and come to Fusion.
Did you ever see her actually do that? Sending out text messages or emails?
I never saw it saw the text messages or emails, but I did see her post stuff on her MySpace page and her Facebook page, but none of her friends ever came.
That's interesting.
While at Fusion, you said you and Tony were business partners. This was your event, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did the defendant participate in those events?
Yes, she did.
What role did she play?
The promo girl. She was in a couple of our contests that I hosted. She was in a hot body contest. She would mingle with the crowd, with the people who were there, and pretty much.
Overall.
Did she do this these events were on Friday?
Yes, sir.
Was this every Friday in the month of June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what a shot girl is?
Yes.
What's a shot girl?
Shot girl is a girl who walks around with a tray of pre-mixed shots and sells them to patrons inside of the club.
Now, is this something that you as a business with Tony would coordinate?
We would coordinate the girls, but we didn't pay the girls. That was based from the club.
All right. Did the defendant have anything to do with selecting shot girls?
No.
Did she ever have anything, to your knowledge, to do with how the shot girls dressed?
She would give her little tidbits of I guess, information for the girls, but most of the time I was the one who was telling the girls what they needed to wear.
When you say that the defendant would give tidbits, what are you talking about?
She would say, maybe the girls should wear these shorts or this skirt with this top. That was the extent of it.
While you were at home with the defendant, did you ever witness her looking for outfits for the girls to wear?
No.
Did she make suggestions to the girls in your presence while at Fusion?
Yes.
About what to wear?
Yes, sir.
Do you know a woman by the name of Maria Kissh?
Yes, I do.
Who is she?
Maria was my girlfriend at the time.
I take it she's not now?
No, she's not now.
Okay. Did she attend any of the nights at Fusion with you?
Yes, she did.
The nights that you were at Fusion with the defendant, what can you tell the jury about her overall demeanor?
She was partying and having a good time.
I don't believe it was.
Overall,
she was partying and having a good time.
When you say partying, are you talking about drinking?
Drinking, yes, sir.
Was she dancing?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever display any emotion to you that would indicate that she was upset about anything?
No.
Did she appear happy?
Yes.
The times that you saw, or how would you characterize based upon what you saw, the relationship between the defendant and Tony Lazzaro? I'm asking for observations, Judge.
Overall, at this point,
they both seemed happy with each other. She would, come over, cook dinner for everybody, clean up the apartment, do laundry. Tony was happy, and so was she.
Did you, in that brief period of time, ever see the defendant and Tony fight?
No.
During this time period that she was basically living with you, did you ever notice the defendant be sad?
No.
Angry?
No.
Depressed?
No.
Withdrawn?
No. She was still the same.
Did she appear exactly the same during this time period when she was living with you than when you first met her with Caylee?
Yes.
No difference?
No different.
Were you at home on July 15th when the defendant's mother came over?
No, I was not. I had moved out by then.
All right, you were out.
Mm-hmm.
After you had moved out, when did you move out?
About 2 weeks before that.
All right. After you moved out, did you ever have any other contact with Casey Anthony?
No.
Did you ever speak with her again?
Me and Tony had a falling out with each other over the Club Fusion, and she was trying to rekindle our friendship, trying to be the good girlfriend, trying to get her boyfriend's best friend back, and that was all the contact that we had.
How did she attempt to do that?
She would just text and say, hey, you should come and hang out with me and Tony. We're going, such and such, we're going out tonight, you guys should come out, squash this beef and become friends again. And we eventually did.
Was that because of her efforts?
No.
This was subsequent?
Yes.
All So again, after you had moved out, and other than the text messages or emails that you've described for us, did you have any other contact with Casey Anthony?
No, there's no other contact.
While she was living with you, did she ever tell you that her daughter had been kidnapped?
No,
That she was missing?
no,
That while you were at school, she was actively looking for her?
no,
That she was worried about her?
no,
She needed help?
no.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions of this witness.
Cross-examination?
Morning, Mr. House.
Good morning.
You met Casey the end of May, early June?
Into May.
Okay. What date exactly?
May 21st, 22nd.
How do you know that that was the date?
It was one of our friends' birthdays, and it was that time that we met.
That week. So the end of May.
End of May, yes, sir.
And you moved out July 1st?
July 1st, 2nd, one of those days.
So the complete extent that you know Casey Anthony is a month and a half?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in that month and a half, you saw Caylee how many times?
4 or 5 times.
Okay. And where did you see her?
Question.
At the apartment.
Question, because he's trying to prove that, like, you know, he didn't actually know Casey for that long, but he saw Caylee, you know, if you're looking at the ratio of how often he saw her versus how long he was there knowing Casey, that, you know, it's that Caylee was around enough, right? I think.
Did she have a backpack with her or food or anything like
And
that?
she would come over with a backpack that had toys in it, flashcards.
Let me stop you there. Flashcards, what kind of flashcards?
Flashcards that had shapes and colors on them that Casey would flash to show Caylee, and, you know, she would say what it was.
And you would hear Caylee describe what kind of colors they were? Is that a yes?
Yes.
You have to say yes for her.
Okay.
All right. Okay. And what other learning tools did you see Casey teach Caylee?
Never saw any other learning tools, but she would grab Cam's drum set little thing, and she would always play on the drums. But other than that, no other learning tools. DVDs, she did have some DVDs that she always brought over.
So in this bag, obviously you would see diapers, things like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And other snacks in case Caylee got hungry?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever see Caylee malnourished?
No, sir.
Did you ever see Caylee neglected in any way?
No, sir.
Did you ever see Casey strike Caylee at any time?
No.
Did you ever see Caylee treat Caylee as if she were a burden or negative?
No, not at all.
Okay. Would you say she was a good mother?
Yes, I would.
Wow. There you go. So this is just flying in the face of the child neglect charge, which is one of the charges.
No.
We'd ask that question and response be stricken.
Request granted. Please read 4.04.5, folks.
Now, sir.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, sir. I apologize, Your Honor. Now those times were times you had seen her. Did you ever see them go out to the pool?
No.
Okay, so you weren't there on June 2nd when Caylee and...
Assuming facts not in evidence, the witness has answered he did not. Now counsel's testifying.
I'll rephrase it.
Sustain, rephrase the question.
Were you aware that Tony Lazzaro and Casey and Caylee went to the pool on June 2nd?
Yes.
Okay. And who else was present?
Nobody. It was just them.
Okay. Now, you mentioned some things about the computer, that you had a computer.
Yes.
Okay. Casey had a computer.
Yes.
Everybody had a computer.
Yes.
Nobody designated you to monitor everybody's computer, did they?
No, sir.
So you weren't keeping any close eye on Casey's computer at any time?
No, sir.
Okay. And now you met at the end of May, and you moved out in July, and you described that you worked at Fusions.
Yes.
And Tony I guess the two of you were promoters?
Yes.
And part of a promoter's job is to get people to come into the club.
Yes, that is the definition of a promoter.
Okay. For those of us that don't know the promoting world, do you get a percentage of the door?
Depends on what deal you have worked out with the club. It can range from anywhere from 100% of the door to half of the door to $2 a head for everybody that walks through.
What about drinks? Do you get any money off the alcohol?
No.
Okay, so it's just the door.
It's just the door. It's illegal to give money to a promoter off of the bar sales because it's their liquor license, not yours.
And when we say the door, we're talking about what they charge you to get in.
Door entrance, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you, as a promoter, contact every single person you know to let them know that on Friday night or Saturday night or whatever night that you're promoting.
Yeah, I mean, I've never actually watched Nancy Grace, but I've like heard her, you know, in passing, her voice and stuff. And that's my understanding is exactly what you're saying there, Kat. And that's exactly the thing is like, so far, I mean, everyone that I've asked, I don't know if I've asked you, but everyone that I've asked so far, no one had ever watched this trial gavel to gavel, including myself. We all just knew what was in the mainstream media or, you know, whatever the general consensus and stuff. And so that's why I wanted to watch it because it's really, you know, as always, we don't get the full scoop, right? Unless we watch the trial. So
your company is going to be promoting that club.
Yes.
And what you're selling is the atmosphere, right?
Yes.
And the atmosphere in this specific place, Fusion is a sushi bar.
Yes.
Okay, so after the sushi bar closes, it kind of turns into a like a martini bar, so to speak.
Yes.
Now, you were at this time calling everyone you know, texting everyone you know, and posting on Facebook and MySpace to come to Fusions.
Yes, sir.
And so was Tony.
Yes, sir.
And because Tony was dating Casey did that too.
Yes, sir.
And everyone was encouraging, you would encourage all your friends to tell your friends and tell their friends, right?
That's the idea. Yes, sir.
Okay. And if you're a popular guy and you know a lot of people, you can do fairly well in this business.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And especially you guys being college students.
Yes.
Now, this
so
business
I think
with
that's going to the point as to why Casey wasn't able to bring as many people in because she wasn't in college. I think that was sort of the point there. Not, not wanting the jury to think that she just didn't have friends or something.
Shot girls. That is a portion of your theme or ambiance, right?
Yes.
And Casey wasn't a shot girl, was she?
No, she wasn't.
In fact, what Casey volunteered to do was to help her boyfriend, I guess, coordinate or manage these shot girls. Is that a fair assessment? Or
it's a fair assessment, but it wasn't really what she was doing. She wasn't managing anybody. That was down to me and Tony.
She took an interest in it.
She took an interest in it, but when it comes down to it, it was us.
And it was to help you in any way you can so you could be more successful.
Yes.
And this is while she was also staying with you, living rent-free.
Yes.
Part of pulling her weight was doing this, helping you financially?
Yes.
Also cooking?
Yes, she would cook.
Cleaning the house?
Yes.
Throwing out the trash?
No, that was us.
Okay.
That was the guys.
So you never threw, do you know if Casey ever threw out the trash or you just don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. And you mentioned even after you and Tony had a falling out, she wanted to put you two back together.
Yes.
And you mentioned that Casey was a friendly girl.
Yes, she was.
She was nice.
Yes, she was.
She cared about people.
Yes, she did.
She cared about you. Is that a yes?
Yes.
And even though she barely knew you?
Yes.
And you saw her caring for her child?
Yes, I did.
And you have now found out that Caylee was dead during that time period. Have you since found out, sir?
Sustained.
Have you since found out that Caylee was dead during this time?
Yes, I have.
And you absolutely noticed no change in her behavior?
Not one change.
Let me
in her
finish the
behavior.
question, sir. You saw absolutely no change in her behavior from the moment, from the time period where she was a loving and caring mother up until the time that Caylee was deceased and living with you?
Never saw one change in her.
I have no further questions.
Redirect, Mr. George.
No, sir, thank you.
May the witness be excused. Subject to recall, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Maria Kissh, Kissh.
May I inquire, sir?
May proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ms. Kish, correct?
Yes,
All right. Ms. Kish, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Are you still, or do you currently live in Central Florida?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the jury what it is you do for a living?
I'm a sales manager
For a department store or a
for a retail
chain?
company. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry?
A retail company. Yes, sir.
How long have you been doing that?
A little more than a year.
Can you tell the jury anything about your educational background?
Yes, I went to the University of Florida and majored in political science.
You graduated?
Yes, sir.
What year?
2007.
Back in, I want to draw your attention back to 2008. In 2008, were you employed?
Yes, I was.
What were you doing in 2008?
I was helping on a county campaign.
You were helping out on a campaign?
I was working for a man who was running for a county office.
Was that a paying job or a volunteer job?
It was a paying job.
Did you hold that position in May and June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Back then, what were your work hours, if you recall?
They were pretty much traditional work hours, 9 to 5, sometimes a little bit later.
During this time period, do you recall where you lived in Orlando?
Yes.
What side of town?
I was living in Kissimmee at the time.
Kissimmee.
Mm-hmm.
In Osceola County or Orange County?
Osceola County.
During this time period of May and June of 2008, did you know a person by the name of Clint House?
Yes.
Who was he at the time?
We were dating at the time.
When did you first start dating Mr. House?
Back in May.
And were you dating him throughout May and June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
What about July?
Yes, sir.
At any time, did the two of you live together?
No, we did not live together.
Directing your attention to June of 2008, did you meet Casey Anthony?
Yes, I did.
Where did you first meet Casey Anthony?
I don't recall exactly. I believe it was out somewhere. Like at a.
Wasn't at somebody's apartment?
I believe it was like a party atmosphere. I can't recall whose house or anything, but.
Okay. How were you introduced to her?
I was introduced through Clint. It was just the girl he was seeing at the time. That's how she was introduced.
That who was seeing at the time?
That Tony Lazzaro was seeing at the time.
Had you already known Tony?
Yes.
Lazzaro?
I'd met him several times, yes.
Did you know Nathan Lezniewicz?
Yes.
So you had known all of these people, but Casey Anthony was a new person that you had met?
Right.
All right. When you met the defendant, did you also meet her daughter on that first time?
No, I did not.
At some point, did you meet her daughter?
Yes, I did.
Where do you recall meeting her daughter?
It was at Tony's apartment.
What do you recall about meeting her when you first arrived?
I had just gone over there to meet up with Clint and knocked on the door, and she answered the door.
Who answered the door?
Caylee answered the door by herself.
Had you ever seen her before that time?
No, sir.
And did you ask her who she was, or what was your reaction upon this little child answering the door?
I knew who she was. And I just said, "Hi, how are you?"
And did you enter the apartment?
Yes, I did.
When you first walked into the apartment, did you see the defendant?
No, I didn't.
Did you have any idea where she was?
I assumed she was there, and later I saw she was just back in one of the rooms.
At some point, did you see Casey?
I did.
Where did you see her coming from?
From Tony's room.
How much time did you spend with Caylee on that day?
Not very long. Maybe it was less than half an hour.
Did you spend any time with Caylee during this time period?
I did.
How long?
Probably 15, 20 minutes.
During the time frame that you spent with her, was her mother, Casey, anywhere around?
She had, like I said, I'd seen her come out of the room.
Overall.
I'd seen her come out of the room for a minute. I can't remember for what. And then she went back.
Back where?
Back into Tony's room.
Into Tony's room?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
Sorry. Yes, back into Tony's room.
Thank you. You obviously saw your boyfriend.
Yes,
Did you at some point leave?
we did.
What do you recall about getting ready to leave?
I had been, Clint was doing something else, and I ended up sitting out on the balcony of the apartment, and Caylee was out there as well. And Clint came and got me and said that he was ready to go, and I felt uncomfortable.
Why?
Because I was on the balcony with her alone, and I didn't want to leave her out there alone.
Now, was this balcony screened?
Yes, it was.
All right. But did you still feel it was safe to be out there?
Objection on 4-3, move to strike this entire line.
No, it's relevant.
Approach.
Ms. Kissh, we left off with you and Caylee on the balcony, and it was time for you to go?
Yes.
What happened after that?
Right around that time, everyone was getting ready to leave the apartment. Clint and I were going to go get dinner, and Tony, Caylee, and Casey were going to leave as well. So Casey and Tony came.
Overruled at this point.
Casey and Tony came out, and Casey told Caylee to get her shoes on because it was time for them to leave, and that was about it. And I saw Caylee struggling to put on her shoes and socks, so I helped her put on her shoes and tie her shoelaces for her, and get her ready to leave the apartment.
Was Caylee verbal with you? Was she speaking with you?
Yes, she was.
You said that you were all getting ready to leave the apartment. Did you all have plans to go out to get?
Sustain, rephrase the question.
Was the plan for all of you to go out together?
No.
So you and your boyfriend were going out?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, sir.
Sorry, sir. Thank you. After that visit, when you saw Caylee, did you ever see her again?
No, sir.
During this time period, in June of 2008, how often were you over at your boyfriend's apartment?
2 to 3 times a week.
When you went over there, were those instances in which you stayed the night?
A few times I did.
A couple of times.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you were over there, do you recall a time when Casey Anthony was also over there?
I do.
Do you recall a time when Ms. Anthony was there all of the time?
Yes, I do.
How were you made aware of that? Or how did you become aware of that?
That she was there all the time?
Yes.
I would talk to Clint, and I would just be getting off work, and he would tell me that Casey had been there all day. And
Sustain.
Were there times, you said you worked 9 to 5.
yes, sir.
After work, would you have the occasion to go over your boyfriend's apartment?
Yes,
Was the defendant there?
yes,
When you stayed for dinner, was the defendant there?
yes, sir.
How would you describe your relationship with the defendant? Would you consider yourself friends or acquaintances or what?
It was, I guess it was just, we saw each other several times because Tony and Clint were living together and she was over there, and so I was over there. It wasn't, we didn't have a friendship, but it was just, I guess, a acquaintance. Yeah.
Okay. Were you polite to one another?
Yes, sir.
You weren't like, you didn't get into arguments with her, did you?
No, never.
Did you ever tell her about your work and what you did?
I can't recall.
Did she ever tell you about her work?
Yes, she did.
What did she tell you about her work?
She said she worked for Universal as an event planner.
Did she ever give you any other detail other than event planner?
No, sir.
Did she ever tell you what her hours were?
Not that I can remember.
I'm sorry? You need to say yes or no.
Not that I can remember, no.
Did you ever see any type of identification on the defendant from Universal Studios?
No, sir.
Did you ever question that she actually worked at Universal Studios?
No, sir.
Other than the apartment, did you have the occasion to spend time with the defendant outside of the apartment?
Yes.
What kind of things did you do?
Usually just involved going out at night to a bar or club, or just grabbing a bite to eat.
Did you have the opportunity to see the defendant and Tony Lazzaro together?
Yes.
As a couple, what were your observations of them as a couple?
Judge, calling for an opinion.
Asking for observations, Your Honor, not an opinion.
Judge, I don't believe she's a therapist of any kind to be giving opinions on.
Based upon that objection, the objection will be overruled.
Thank you. That means you can answer the question. What did you observe about their relationship?
That they got along well, and they were casually dating, and it seemed to be beneficial for Tony.
That's what everybody's.
It seemed to be beneficial for Tony.
Did they appear to genuinely like each other?
I believe so.
I'm sorry?
I believe so, yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kissh, I'm having a little hard time hearing you. If I could just ask you to speak up nice and loud into the mic, okay?
I'm sorry, I have allergies and they're acting up.
The time that you spent with the defendant and Mr. Lazzaro, did you ever see them argue?
No.
Do you know what fusion is?
Yes, I do.
What is
We all
fusion?
know what fusion
It is a restaurant/nightclub.
Have you had the occasion to be at Fusion with your boyfriend and the defendant?
Yes, sir.
What type of things happened? How many times have you been at Fusion with the defendant?
One time.
Tell the jury what happens at these events. Is there a show? Is there a concert? What is it?
It's like shoveling the apron.
The time I went with the defendant, it was
Sure. Do you recall the date in which you went to Fusion with the defendant?
It was June 20th.
How do you know it was June 20th? Because, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because I remember it was that Friday, and I met up with everybody that night,
Yeah, but that's
and there was a
like know the date though. Like why is it?
hot body contest that night as well.
And what time did you go to Fusion with your boyfriend, or did you meet everybody there?
I met everybody there.
What do you recall about the hot body contest?
Object to the relevance, Judge.
Sustained as phrased.
Did you witness the hot body contest?
Yes, sir.
Did the defendant participate in the hot body contest?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what the defendant was wearing on June 20th of 2008 during the hot body contest?
Yes, she was wearing just a thin knit dress.
Do you recall the color?
It was a bluish color.
I'm showing you what's been, I believe, entered into evidence as state's number, and I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, this is number 3. Do you recognize the people in that photograph?
I do.
Who's in that photograph?
On the left is Casey Anthony, and on the right is Nathan Lezniewicz.
Do you recall Nathan being at Fusion when you were at Fusion on June 20th?
Yes.
2008. Based upon that dress or that outfit that Ms. Anthony appears to be wearing, does that appear to be an accurate representation of what the defendant looked like and what she was wearing on June 20th of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Did you participate in the contest?
No, sir, I did not.
All right. Your Honor, may I republish this to the jury one more time just for a brief period of time?
You might.
Thank you.
Okay, it's published in States number 3 in evidence.
Do you recall the defendant having any role to play at Fusion on this night other than participating in the hot body contest?
Yes, I do.
Overall?
What did you understand the defendant's role to be on this night?
She was in charge of the shop girls.
Did you see her actually interacting with the shop girls?
I did.
Did you actually hear her talking to them about what they were supposed to do or not supposed to do?
I did.
Did you hear her discussing their attire or what they should wear?
I can't remember. She specifically discussed that.
During this time period, was there anything about the defendant's demeanor that alarmed you?
No.
Did she ever appear angry
No.
or upset?
No, sir.
I'm sorry?
No, sir, she did not.
Did you stay at Fusion on June 20th, 2008 until it closed?
Yes.
Where did you stay that night?
I stayed at their apartment that night.
Okay. Did you see the defendant the next morning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where do you recall seeing her?
In the kitchen of the apartment.
Was this in the morning or the afternoon?
It was in the morning.
I don't know if this is relevant.
Overrule at this point, but let's get there, Mr. George.
Yes, sir. Did you have a discussion with her that morning?
I did.
What did you talk about?
I asked her where Caylee was.
And what did she tell you?
She told me that she was spending the weekend at the beach with the nanny.
When she said the nanny, did she give you a name?
No, sir.
Did she tell you anything about her financial relationship with the nanny?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She told me that she paid the nanny $400 a week.
$400 a week?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did you inquire, I'm talking English, did you ask the defendant anything about Caylee's dad?
Approach.
Here we have an approach.
You may proceed. Objection overruled.
Thank you. Do you remember the question?
You're almost.
I'm sorry, I don't.
That's okay. Did you have any discussions with the defendant about Caylee's dad?
Yes, I did.
What, if anything, did the defendant tell you about Caylee's dad?
She told me that he was deceased.
Now, you were aware that Ms. Anthony was staying at the apartment, correct?
Yes.
Hey, I love this.
Sustain.
Did you have a discussion with the defendant about her living situation?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What did she tell you what her living situation was?
That she was going to move into her parents' house. They were moving out and giving the house to her.
To her?
To her, yes, and Caylee.
Did she tell you when she was planning on moving into the house that her parents had left?
She didn't give an exact time. It was within the next couple months.
My read, just in terms of like the lying, because we see a lot of liars, right? In these different trials, like we had Alex Murdaugh, we had Ezra. It seems like Casey was like a compulsive liar, but even about stuff that didn't matter, like what this lady is saying, it's like, why was she even saying this? And it's not like it, So it's like, I don't know if she's like a compulsive liar, but what I will say is the big difference from what I can tell so far in this trial, going through it with an open mind, trying to be just like objective, is that what I'm not hearing is like the manipulation factor, right? Or like gaslighting type of stuff, right? She seems to treat everybody really well with kindness. It seems like there were some family issues, but we've heard things about that, and but everyone that knew her so far, it's really just only positive things to say. Literally, they don't have anything but glowing remarks, essentially, right? She was a great mom. She was a good friend. She was nice. She was friendly, outgoing, so, she never got in arguments, and whatnot. So interesting.
Did Casey Anthony ever tell you that her daughter was missing?
No, sir.
Did she ever tell you that her daughter was kidnapped?
No, sir.
Did she ever tell you that she was out looking for her?
No, sir.
Did she ever ask you for help?
No.
The times that you knew, for the weeks that you spent acquainted with Ms. Anthony, did you ever have the occasion to ride in her car?
Yes, sir.
When was that?
I can't remember the exact date.
Was it while she was staying with Clint and those guys, or was it before?
It was while she was staying there.
Other than that, did you ever go in the car?
No.
When you were in the car, who were you with?
It was with Casey, obviously, Tony, and Clint.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Cross-examination.
Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Where did you go when you in the car?
I believe we just went to get something to eat.
And Casey drove?
I can't remember who drove. It was either Casey or Tony.
And you sat in the passenger side or in the back?
I sat in the back seat.
Okay. And when you sat in the back seat, did you smell any foul odor?
No, sir.
Okay. And Clint was with you in the back seat?
Yes.
And did Clint say, "Oh, something stinks back here," or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. And what about Tony? Did he say, "Boy, this car stinks"?
No, sir.
Now, you mentioned that you didn't have a friendship with Casey.
Correct.
You weren't friends in any way.
No, we were acquaintances.
And this thin blue dress that she was wearing, well, I'll strike that. Now, you didn't like her being over at the house, did you?
It didn't bother me personally.
Your boyfriend lived at the house.
Correct.
And Casey was living at the same house as your boyfriend.
Correct.
And it struck you odd that she was there all the time.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you mentioned that you would call your boyfriend and she was there.
Yes.
And that didn't bother you at all.
That she was at the house?
She was spending all this time where your boyfriend was.
No, it didn't bother me at all.
And this is someone, of course, that you had no friendship with, and that didn't bother you in any way, shape, or form.
No, sir.
I'm sorry?
No, sir, it didn't. She was dating Tony.
No further questions.
Okay, may the witness be excused. Okay, thank you, ma'am. You may be excused. Yes, sir. Okay, let the record reflect that the defendant is present along with counsel for the defendant, assistant state attorneys. Mr. Baez, you may proceed.
Yes, sir. We were informed of the next witness by the state, and we have a brief renewal of a motion that we'd like to get on the record before the jury comes in.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fryer will be addressing that.
Ms. Fryer?
In regards to the shovel,
May it please the court?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Your Honor. Your Honor, the testimony of Mr. Byrne, we would like to renew our motion in limine, which would have precluded any testimony related to the shovel.
Okay.
We do this on several grounds, Your Honor. The first is that the testimony related to the shovel is simply not relevant, and there is substantial case law that says where there is an item of evidence that is not related to the charged offense, it's simply not relevant. This also creates a 403 issue as well.
I was just saying.
Additionally, Your Honor, in the order,
Irrelevant.
Yes, ma'am.
the reason for granting admission stated in the order was that the state contends that the defendant's actions are relevant to rebut her statements to law enforcement that she was conducting her own search for her daughter. We don't dispute that she was not conducting a search for her daughter. So at this point, this isn't material. So the shovel is not related nor tied to the offense. It's misleading. Your Honor, where shovels have been let in as evidence, there has been a direct connection to the charged crime. This is not the case here. Additionally, Your Honor, under Florida Statute 90.1042, the court is required, in cases tried by a jury, a court shall conduct proceedings to the maximum extent practicable in such a manner as to prevent inadmissible evidence from being suggested to the jury by any means. Absolutely. In cases tried by a jury, a court shall conduct proceedings to the maximum extent practicable in such a manner as to prevent inadmissible evidence from being suggested to the jury by any means. Based on that, we reassert our motion to preclude any mention of the shovel.
Thank you very much. Okay, State, any additional comments other than what you said before?
No, Your Honor. As you know, this issue has been argued in writing through pleadings. The court has made a ruling. We would stand by our position then, and it should be admissible.
Okay, the defense's renewed objection will be denied. The defense did indicate that they are not contesting that matter, but the case of Marie D. Arrington versus State, just because you're not contesting and willing to stipulate to a matter does not alleviate the state's duty and obligation to prove something. With that, anything else before we bring the jury back in?
Only that, Judge, during the witness's testimony, I think to properly preserve it, I would have to object again, but I will just say objection, renewing our previous motion, if that's all right with the court.
That'll be fine, Mr. Baez.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, sir.
Now we can
Brian Berner, B-U-R-N-E-R.
May I inquire, sir? Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Berner, where do you live?
Orlando, Florida.
Okay. Do you know George and Cindy Anthony?
I do.
How do you know them?
Neighbors.
Okay. When you say neighbors, where do they live in proximity to your home?
I guess to the one house to the south of me.
Okay. So they are your next door neighbors?
Correct.
When did you move into the home where you currently reside?
2005.
When you moved in, were the Anthonys already living there?
Yes.
You've met George Anthony?
Yes.
Don't Anthony?
Yes.
When you first moved in, Casey Anthony was living there?
Yes.
How about Lee Anthony?
I don't recall of Lee. He may have been there. I'm not for sure.
Have you met Lee Anthony?
Yes.
All right. How would you describe your, for lack of a better term, relationship with the Anthonys?
Just cordial neighbors.
Were you friends with them?
Yeah, on brief occasions, just cordially.
Did you ever go over to their house for dinner?
No.
Did they ever come over to yours?
No.
So other than just briefly saying hello from time to time, would that be about the extent of it?
Correct.
Do you work, sir?
Yes, I do.
What do you do?
I'm a truck driver.
How long have you been truck driving?
Almost 24 years.
In your home, who lives with you?
My wife, 2 sons and a daughter.
How old are your sons?
21, 16, and my daughter's 10.
To your knowledge, are any of your children good friends or friends with either Lee Anthony or Casey Anthony?
No.
Directing your attention, sir, to the week around June 15th, 16th of 2008, were you still living in your home at that time?
Yes.
Do you recall anything going on in your life around this time?
No.
Do you take a vacation?
I did.
Did you take a vacation in June of 2008?
Yes.
When did you return home?
This evening of the 16th.
Were you scheduled to go back to work the following day?
No, I was not.
When were you scheduled to go back to work?
The following Monday, so I was off the entire week.
All right. So were you at home on June 17th?
Yes.
During the day on June 17th, did you have the occasion to see Casey Anthony?
I saw Casey's vehicle.
Okay. What can you tell the jury about what you saw?
It was backing into the garage.
What type of car are we talking about?
White Sunfire, I believe it is.
Have you actually seen Ms. Anthony drive that car before?
Yes.
Are you familiar with anybody else driving that car during this time period?
No.
When you saw the car backing into the driveway, were you inside your home or outside your home?
Inside.
So I take it you saw her through a window?
Correct.
All right. Did you leave your house at that point?
No.
Do you know whether or not the car was pulled back into the garage or just into the driveway?
Into the garage.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because I could see the front edge of the garage from our window. So I could tell that the vehicle went all the way in.
Did that seem in any way odd or strange to you?
No.
Have you seen this particular car being backed into the driveway before?
Not until that first day.
Upon seeing the car going into the garage, did you do anything? Did you leave your home to see what was going on?
No.
Do you know how long the car was there?
I do not.
So I take it by your answer that you have no recollection of the car leaving the house.
Correct.
Were you also at home on the 18th?
Yes.
What were you doing on the 18th?
Afternoon, was doing yard work outside.
Mowing, edging, that type of thing?
Correct.
Was anybody else outside with you?
No.
While you were doing your yard work on the 18th, did you see or happen to see the defendant, Casey Anthony?
She approached me later in the afternoon.
Do you have any idea about what time this was?
1:20, 1:30.
She approached you?
Correct.
And why did she approach you?
She said she wanted to borrow a shovel to dig up a bamboo root.
Can you bring up? Sir, can you see what's on a monitor there?
Yes.
All right. I'm showing you what's been marked for identification AI. First of all, I ask you if you recognize the room that we're looking at.
Yes.
What is that?
That's my garage.
Also, contained within that picture, do you see a shovel?
I do.
Is that your shovel?
Yes.
Is that the shovel that you loaned to Casey Anthony?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate picture of your shovel?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, the state would move what's been previously marked for identification AI into evidences, I believe, states number 4.
Noted in previous,
Other than the previous motion.
noted in previous objections, objection would be overruled and be received in evidence.
Just want to be clear that we would renew our previous motion with objections.
You lost me at the end.
I would strike all previous statements and say we would renew all previous motions.
Noted in previous objections, they will be overruled and entered into evidence as.
Your Honor, at this time, may I publish the photo?
You may.
When Ms. Anthony first approached you regarding borrowing the shovel, where were you?
I was in the street blowing off grass clippings.
Did you see from where the defendant came from?
No.
Do you recall what she was wearing?
No, I do not.
Had she ever asked to borrow anything of yours before?
No.
Did you have any problem or issue with giving her a shovel?
No.
All right. So what did you do upon her asking?
I walked around to the north side of my house to my shed and gave her the shovel. She gave you an explanation as to why she wanted it. Correct.
Did she give you any time frame of how long she would need it?
No.
Did she follow you to the shed?
Yes.
When you gave her the shovel, did you see where she went?
While we both walked back out to the front, and then she walked in through the garage.
You saw her walking?
Yes, the garage door was open.
Okay. Did you see her walking into her home?
Only into the garage.
Only into the garage?
Yeah.
From there, where did you go?
I finished blowing off the grass clippings in the front.
All right. And after you finished that, where did you go?
I blew off grass clippings in the rear.
All right.
And then... Yeah.
During this time, while you were finishing cleaning up, did you see the defendant?
No.
Upon finishing your chore, what did you do?
I put my equipment away in my shed and then walked around the front to see, by chance, if Casey was finished.
Okay.
And I walked probably halfway across the property on the sidewalk and could see the garage was open, and then I just went back in the house.
And when you went back inside your house, what did you do?
I told my son that Casey had borrowed a shovel and I needed to take a shower. So if she knocked on the door, you could accept the shovel from her.
All right. I take it you took a shower?
Yes.
When you got out of the shower, did you have the occasion to see Casey Anthony again?
No.
Okay. Did you get your shovel back?
I did.
How did that happen, if you know?
She had knocked on the door probably about an hour after I lent her the shovel.
And the shovel was returned to whom?
To me.
All right. You saw her?
Yes.
All right. Did you notice anything different about her?
No.
Was she wearing the same clothes?
I don't recall.
All right. And what did you do with the shovel after that?
Opened the interior garage door from my house and set it in the garage.
All right. Did you see the defendant leave that afternoon?
No.
Do you recall when she came to borrow the shovel initially and when you saw her walking into the garage, did you see her white car?
The car was there.
Where was the car?
Backed in.
Backed in?
Yes.
Was it in the garage or in the driveway?
No, in the garage.
Did you happen during that week to see the defendant's car again?
One other time.
Okay. When was that?
It was either the 19th or the 20th. I can't recall.
All right. What do you recall happening on that day? First of all, about what time are we talking about?
Early afternoon. Maybe between noon and 3.
And I don't know if I asked you this. I'm sorry if I didn't. When she borrowed the shovel, do you have any idea about what time that was?
Around approximately 1:30.
I'm sorry, we're jumping ahead now to the next time that you saw at least her car. This was a day or two after.
Correct.
At approximately what time? I'm sorry.
Between noon and 3.
Again, where were you when you saw the car?
In the house on the couch.
Okay. Did you see the car pull into the driveway?
The car backed in at that time.
It backed in.
Yes.
Did you see anything else?
No.
Did you see who got out of the car?
No.
Do you know how long the car stayed there?
No.
Other than that, those 3 instances that you've talked about during this time period in June of 2008, did you have any contact with the defendant?
No.
Did you have any contact with George Anthony that you recall?
On one occasion.
Okay. That was during this week?
No, not during that week. That was in July.
You were, I guess at some point, made aware by police presence at the home, the Anthony home?
Yes.
When that occurred, did you go outside?
No.
Did you ever speak to George Anthony about everything that was going on outside the house?
No.
Or Cindy Anthony?
No.
When you saw the defendant on June 18th of 2008, did she tell you that her daughter was missing?
No.
Kidnapped?
No.
That she was looking for her?
No.
That she needed any help?
Nope.
Did she tell you that anything was wrong with her daughter?
No.
Other than asking for the shovel, was there anything in her demeanor that suggested that she was upset?
No.
Angry?
Nope.
Sad?
Nope.
Depressed?
No.
Happy?
Just normal.
Just normal. Thank you. May I have a moment, Judge?
You might.
Was there ever a time that you saw the defendant's car, the white Pontiac, in the driveway or by the house with another car?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good
Burr.
afternoon.
Now, you first gave a statement to law enforcement on July 17th, 2008.
Correct.
Right. It was right when the media began, correct? When
Yes.
the media began giving it attention. Now, just to backtrack a little bit, you saw police cars next door on the 16th?
I believe, 16th.
And then the 17th, immediately, you spoke with law enforcement and gave your statement.
No, I think it was 2 days after.
Do you recall that you gave a statement on July 17th or not?
It was a Thursday, was the day I gave my first statement.
If I showed you your statement, would that refresh your recollection as to whether you did? May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Okay. I'm thinking of days and not dates.
Okay. Now, does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
As to the day you spoke with them?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you spoke with them, you told them that you didn't know the date that Casey had borrowed the shovel from you, but you knew it was more or less the week of the 16th. Is that correct? I'm sorry?
Correct.
Okay. And then you were called into the sheriff's department on July 30th. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you gave a second statement.
Yes.
You met with a Corporal Edwards.
Correct.
He's about 5'10", 5'11", white male, and very short buzz cut.
Sounds about right.
Maybe 200 pounds, 190, right around there. Okay. And you then spoke with them a little while, correct?
Correct.
And that's when you started giving them dates, right?
Yes.
And do you recall, and I don't know if you do or not, but do you recall if Corporal Edwards asked you to close your eyes and try and think and see if you can remember, because this was important?
Yes.
Okay, he asked you to do that?
Yeah.
And do you remember Corporal Edwards telling you that based on his experience, as time passes, you start to remember things?
Yes.
Would you agree with that statement?
To an extent.
Okay. Your memory is just like everybody else's. It gets worse with time, not better,
Yes.
right? Now, after you closed your eyes and had this thought process of speaking with Corporal Edwards, that's when the dates became clear.
No.
That's when you told them the dates, right?
No.
You told them on that occasion.
Correct.
Okay. And you're saying as time passed, you were able to think about it, reflect, and look into to the actual dates as to whether that assisted you or not.
Correct.
When Casey borrowed the shovel from you, you were inside your house?
Outside.
Okay, you were outside.
Yes.
And you talked about her car being backed in or anything like that. And Mr. George asked you if you had ever seen her car backed in.
That was the
Do you
first
recall
occasion. You're right.
Okay. Now, you don't watch as Casey's neighbor, you don't watch the comings and goings of Casey Anthony, do you?
No.
So you wouldn't make it a habit to, whenever she came home, to see how she parked her car or anything like that?
No.
You're just the average neighbor?
Yeah.
Okay. And you wouldn't consider yourself a nosy neighbor or anything like that, would you?
No.
Okay. So you don't know how Casey parks her car every day? You don't
Correct.
have a set?
No.
Sorry? Okay.
Correct.
After she borrowed the shovel from you, this was in the middle of the day?
Correct.
In broad daylight?
Yes.
And when she gave you the shovel back, it wasn't muddy or anything like that?
No.
And she didn't look sweaty or anything like that, like she had just been digging a ditch or anything like that?
Not that I recall.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was...
Not that I recall.
Okay. Now, after she borrowed the shovel, you can't give us any information as to what she did when she went in her backyard, did you? Can you?
No.
So you don't know if she was trying to use that shovel to get into the shed?
Correct.
And are you aware as to whether the Anthonys have shovels of their own?
I am not aware.
Okay. So you've never seen whether they have 3 or 4 shovels or anything like that?
No.
And you can't offer any of us anything more than speculation as to what Casey did with the shovel?
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Brenner.
Read it right?
You were asked some questions about an interview that you gave with Detective Edwards.
Yes.
Do you recall during that interview when he was asking you to close your eyes and picture the times and the events surrounding seeing the car pulling into the driveway?
Yes.
Do you recall telling him that you saw a pickup truck?
I wasn't for sure of the vehicle.
Okay. What do you recall about that incident?
That was the incident where the Monday when the gas cans were supposedly taken. And I heard the voices, and I just looked out the window and saw Casey and didn't think of nothing of it.
Now, was this the week of the 16th, or was this the following?
The following week.
All right. You saw Ms. Anthony?
Yes.
Did you see anybody else?
There was a male, but I didn't recognize him.
Where did you see Ms. Anthony?
In the driveway.
Did you see them at any other place other than the driveway?
No.
Did you hear them speaking?
Yes.
Could you hear the words that they were saying?
No.
It was the defendant and a male.
Correct.
When the instances that you told us about and that I asked you about and Mr. Baez asked you about the car backing into the driveway or into the garage, do you recall there being any other car in the driveway?
No.
Do you recall there being any other car in the garage?
No.
If we were to go outside of your home into your backyard, would we be able to see clearly into the Anthony's backyard?
No.
What is separating?
Privacy fence.
Is there any other tree cover or anything else that would block the view other than the fence?
No.
But the fence does block the view.
Yes.
When you heard the defendant's voice along with the male's voice, did you see those people did you see the defendant leave the house?
No.
Or drive away, I should say?
No.
Do you have any idea how long they were there?
No.
Did you hear any noises?
No.
While you were there? While they were there, I should say.
No.
I'm sorry, sir, if I was unclear. When we were talking about Ms. Anthony being there along with a male voice, was the white car there?
I didn't see the car.
You didn't see the car?
No.
All right. Did you see any car in the driveway?
Just the vehicle that I don't recall what it was.
But it was not the defendant's white car?
Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Can you recross on those issues?
Mr. Berner, the incidents that we're talking about, you had no idea that you would have to later recall these things, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, when you started talking about them, it was over a month later after they occurred.
Correct.
And it's pretty hard to look back and recall everything a month prior, is it not?
Correct.
And no one told you on that day you should be looking for this car or that car or any car.
Correct.
Now, the photograph that we saw, was that of your garage and your living room?
Yes.
Okay, so your garage faces the front of the street?
Correct.
And can we get the photo back up? So the Anthony's house would be to the right of this shovel, is it not?
Is that the one you want?
Yes, it is.
I don't have a photo.
I'm sorry, you can't see it?
No.
Okay. Let me know when you can see it.
Okay.
What exhibit are we showing the witness?
I believe this is state's number 4.
State's number 4. Thank you.
So the Anthony's home is to the right of this door, is that correct?
No, it'd be straight through.
I'm sorry?
If you're looking out the front door, their home is to the left.
If you're looking out the
front door. Well, this is the door to the garage.
Correct.
Where
This
the tile
garage
is?
door.
Correct.
You want the jury to see this, Mr. Baez?
Yes, please. So if I were standing outside of your garage or right in front of your garage door, I would be looking direct? Straight?
Yes.
Okay. And the Anthony family home would be towards the right?
Correct.
Okay. And that is your living room in front there, correct?
Correct.
And you can see the TV on there?
Yeah.
All right. And there's a window to, I presume, to the left?
To the right of this photo.
Oh, to the right. Okay. And to the left as well?
No.
Okay. And now the date, if I can have just a moment, Judge. Now, the date that you heard the male voice, that was in the middle of the day, correct?
Early afternoon.
1?
Around 1.
Okay. And you didn't see the male?
No, I saw the male, but they were walking, so I saw Casey, and then I saw the male for a split second.
And any time that you saw cars, you never saw anyone driving them, did you?
No.
In fact, even when you saw Casey's car backing in, you don't know who was driving.
Correct.
And any time you saw Casey's car related to this case, you never saw who was driving, you just saw a car.
Correct.
This shovel was then turned into the FBI, was it not?
I believe so.
And on the 17th, after you made that statement to law enforcement, there were media trucks outside your home, were there not?
Yes.
How long were media trucks outside?
Months.
Months?
Yeah.
Fair to say for at least 6 months there were media trucks parked outside your home?
Excuse me, the state's going to object to the relevance beyond the scope of the redirect.
It's my last question, Judge, on this topic.
What's the relevancy and scope of redirect?
It relates
Sustain.
It would relate to this witness's knowledge of the facts, Judge.
Sustained.
Now, you had stated to Mr. George that Casey seemed normal.
Correct.
What's normal, sir?
Just
Objection or against the scope of the redirect.
Scope of redirect?
I'll withdraw.
Okay, thank you. May the witness be excused?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused.
Okay. I'm just going to update my ticker here. 102 objections we have today, guys. All righty, so that is it for this one. We will pick up tomorrow with some heavy hitters. We're going to have Tony Lazzaro and George Anthony take 2, because just can't get enough of him, right? So he will be back for more. And for anyone who missed it, we had a crazy start to the live stream watching a really unhinged deposition. It was hilarious. So I'll get timestamps done for anyone who is on replay crew. Shout out to you guys and anyone who wants to watch that. But we will be back for more here shortly. And thanks so much for watching, for being here as always. And I will see you guys on the next one.